which is I was with a very senior executive in America just yesterday, as this happened, and we were discussing it. And he said, that's what you get. You go down to Mar-a-Lago in Washington, you stand next to the president, you do all the things. You say, I'm going to do $500 billion, I'm going to genuflect, I'll bend the knee, I'll kiss the ring, I'll do all the things, and then he's going to come after me anyway. And so...
Or is it he did 99 of the things, but he didn't go on the Middle East trip? I mean, was that a catalyst for...
I don't know.
Well, the guys who went on the Middle East trip, I think they were smart to do it. But I don't know that he turned it down. I think that there were specific AI-focused deals there, and of course that's a business of Apple Intelligence. But I think that Trump does take things personally. However, you don't respond personally. The divide and conquer antic is a scary one. We've seen CEOs melt down when they got into that. Trump's negotiation style is always to, instead of building up trust. Did he pull
back on India then? I mean, look, Apple, to the extent that there's a company that is stuck, given these sort of political headwinds, they're in a place that's actually very complicated.
Well, he did, you know, Trump 1.0, Tim Cook did what Trump wanted. He moved out quite a bit of production, of course, to Vietnam. 20% of iPads are from there, and 90% of his watches, I believe, are from there. And of course, that was Vietnam, rather. And India is about 20% of phones, and he could ramp up, if you believe Dan Ives this morning, he can ramp up 60 to 65% in India if need be. But that wasn't enough, as now President Trump's changed his mind on India and on Vietnam to bring it all back here. But there's no way that Tim Cook is going to allow prices on an iPhone to increase more than 3 times to $3,500 per phone. And what he does is he doesn't put Trump in a corner. He doesn't insult back. Trump can be like a wounded animal slashing away back at you if you take him on that way, if you poke the bear. Tim Cook talks to him quietly. But Tim Cook also knows that this leadership model is different. It's like a hub with spokes coming off of it. It's almost a tribal model, is that he knows who to deal with. It's not Howard Lutnick. It's not Peter Navarro. I'm sorry to say I introduced Navarro to Trump years ago, even before Jared thought he did. Jared now admits I introduced them to us, so blame me. But many CEOs, a major transportation CEO yesterday and that I spoke with, and a major industrialist told me just the day before, they will have nothing to do with dealing with Navarro, but they do know that working with Scott Bessent and working with Jamison Greer, the trade rep.
A separate question, which is, we've heard since the beginning of this administration, you know, so many big foreign direct investments or big investments by American corporation announcements. If we look at this 3 years from now, what do you think we're going to see? I mean, do you think that it's actually going to be a record and we should go, oh my goodness, this is really a seismic change and this is fabulous for the country, which is my hope? Or do you say to yourself, we're going to see something very different?
Well, I think Trump and even Navarro are not completely out of bounds in talking about the need to adjust the China relationship. Navarro used to talk about the 7 deadly sins. I wish they'd get back to that. An intellectual property issue, enforced ownership, and things like that. That data can't travel outside of China that's produced there unless it's managed on, you know, Huawei equipment, things. That's crazy. Things they needed to address, but not, you know, putting in these cross-the-board tariffs. Is that CEOs 85% tell us there should be selective tariffs.
I get it. I'm asking a different question.
Well, what will last?
I'm asking, when you look at the NVIDIA announcements, or different chip manufacturers who say they're going to be manufacturing in Arizona, is that something do you say to yourself, all this is going to happen anyway? Do you say this happened because of this administration? Do you say they say they're going to do it and it's not going to happen? Obviously, Apple came out with its $500 billion investment. Do you think that when somebody goes back and measures that later, they're going to look at that and go, this was an unbelievable time in America? Or are you going to say this was policy by press release and the press release wasn't worth what was on the page? Well,
if you take a look at the chip makers, they're doing a fairly good job privately meeting with them, as well as people like Michael Dell, Arvind Krishna of IBM. They put zero money in. IBM, I believe, has never given a political donation in their history, but they have great influence by talking privately with Trump about, for example, revisiting the CHIPS Act. Just because it was a Biden creation doesn't mean it was wrong. In fact, Biden was too slow, as actually the Secretary of Commerce was too slow in releasing the funds. I believe the CEO of Intel lost his job because only 5% of the funds were released that should have gone out in the CHIPS Act there. But so you'll see some things. The Taiwan Semiconductor, you've probably seen it. I've seen it just north of Arizona. That construction's been underway for years. He's taking full credit as if it just happened. Some of that stuff will be lasting. But they're going to take a look. Is this equal protection? They're getting the same deal. Do you realize that half of Elon Musk's production worldwide is in China? He produces 2 million cars in China. I know nobody talks about this. 1 million are sent for export outside of China. Wait a minute. Why isn't that anybody complaining about that? Ford only produces 25% of what Tesla does in China. GM produces twice as much. But Ford and GM, it's Ford.
Hold on, just so we're clear though, the cars that are being produced in China by Tesla that you say are being exported, are not being exported to the U.S. They're being exported to parts of Europe. They're being exported to parts of Africa, being exported elsewhere, correct? Yeah, it's still being exported elsewhere, which is an issue. Now, if you believe Navarro, that Tesla in the U.S. is an assembler of parts made elsewhere, and of course Elon Musk took issue with that. We talked to him about it on this show. But then we put in the drivetrain, brake systems, and tires, and we realized maybe Navarro's not exactly crazy yet again. There are sources that coming from elsewhere. Are people being held to the same rules? And that's a critical issue. But CEOs, they don't have a choice whether or not to deal with Trump. They have to figure out how to deal with him. It is not by putting him on the spot. It's through collective action. The Business Roundtable has done a fair to mediocre job. Surprisingly, they've been really backpedaling a little bit. They make some statements and all, but to the shock and amazement of everybody, the ultra-conservative, historically, National Association of Manufacturers Jay Timmons has been way more out there and direct. I mean, they were in favor of the Vietnam War. They were not big environmentalists. They were not big on civil rights issues. And they were very reactive. Not now. And that's a difficult group. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is a huge group, large and small, old and young, more rural and urban, and yet they're doing a very good job there of addressing Trump. But you don't want individual CEOs to poke the bear, and the Business Roundtable needs to step up a little bit more. They backpedaled a little because I don't know why, but they sit in rows and columns like they're in church pews when Trump comes in to meet with them, and they don't actually have an active, lively debate. Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, it's always good to see you. Oh, thanks. Good to see you. Appreciate it.
And coming up, shares of Take-Two are under pressure this morning following earnings and guidance. The company also moving the release date back for GTA 6. That's been having some effect as well. CEO Strauss Zelnick will join us first on CNBC at 8:40 a.m. Eastern Time. Squawk Box is coming right back.
The all-new Infiniti QX80, a 450 horsepower twin-turbo beast of luxury. Invest in an Infiniti during the once-in-a-springtime
Order
event.
submitted.
We won't raise the MSRP on any vehicle before June 2nd.
Your record label is taking off, but so is your sound engineer. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our advanced matching helps find talented candidates so you can connect with them fast. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Fire it up, Randy! By being prepared for anything! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
I won't let you out until you can prove you know your finances.
Okay, let's go.
How many subscriptions are you paying for?
3?
Let's download Rocket Money and see if you're right.
Okay.
Oh, you're actually paying for 15 subscriptions.
What? The app is telling you all this?
Yeah, it shows you all your upcoming expenses in one place, including subscriptions you forgot about. And if you see a subscription you no longer want, you can cancel it right from the app.
That's great. Can I get out now?
Yeah, let's get him out.
At Interactive Brokers, independent RIAs work with the best research and trading tools designed to help them outperform the markets. Meet them at Interactive Brokers Investors Marketplace for Advisors. Advisors at Interactive Brokers keep all they earn on our low-cost platform, with no ticket fees or custody charges, low margin rates, and high interest earned on idle cash. To get better results, get a better platform. The best informed investors choose Interactive Brokers.
best place to buy kids' furniture? A furniture store just for kids. That's Rooms to Go Kids. And right now during the Memorial Day sale, save on stylish beds starting at $199. Fun and functional bunks, lofts, and room packages too. Like this and this. On sale. Plus, don't miss our exclusive brands like Disney Princess and Star Wars. Shop today, save today, and get fast delivery and expert setup. Rooms to Go Kids, the only furniture store just for kids.
To the end zone for the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Elon Musk's XAI made its first public comment last night about this controversy surrounding its chatbot Grok. This week, NBC News had reported Grok was answering user queries with unrelated responses about violence against whites in South Africa. CNBC was able to replicate responses by Grok in which it said it had been instructed to address the topic of white genocide in South Africa. In a post on X, the company wrote that an unauthorized modification caused the chatbot to generate variations of a specific response on a political topic. It said the change to the chatbot violated the company's internal policies and core values. And XAI says it'll start publishing the system prompts used to inform the way Grok responds and interacts with people. It will also implement additional checks and measures to prevent employees from making unapproved modifications to those system prompts without a review. Andrew, expect this to be the first of many such stories as we all rely on kind of single answers to big questions, or as other content gets populated, as in this case, on these platforms. Coming up, another outage at another major airport. This time it's in Denver, following several incidents at Newark. Former United Airlines CEO Oscar Munoz will tell us if the right moves are being made to fix the nation's outdated air traffic control systems. And then it's all things crypto and tech with Galaxy CEO Mike Novogratz. His Galaxy Digital Holdings listing on the NASDAQ this morning. This exclusive interview at 8:10 Eastern Time. Squawk Box will be right back.
Franklin Templeton Custom Tax Management. Easily create custom SMAs with our Canvas platform and help investors keep more of what they earn. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
It's time. Yes, the time has come for a fresh approach to dog food. Every day, more dog people are deciding it's time to quit the kibble and feed their dogs fresh food from the farmer's dog. Made by vets and delivered right to your door, precisely portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
The time has come.
Did you know that your life insurance policy is an asset that you can sell? Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. I'm the CEO of Abacus Life, and for almost 20 years, we've been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. In fact, you can use the free policy value calculator at abacuspays.com. And in just seconds, you can learn what your policy might be worth. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
American manufacturers power our economy. At Biz2 Credit, we help them grow with fast, flexible financing. Financing that means more jobs, more growth, and more made in America. Biz2 Credit, funding what's next. Scan the code to learn more.
Searching for the perfect underwear? Tommy John combines innovation with excellence. It's softer than cotton, with up to 4 times the stretch of competing brands. Tommy John, because if you dress to the nines, your underwear should be a 10. Go to TommyJohn.com now for 20% off your first order.
What if I told you that you have enough credit card points to take your dream trip, but you didn't even realize it?
Before Point Me, I had no idea how much my credit card points are worth.
Now with Point Me, I'm getting 6 times the value.
My points took me to Costa Rica with my whole family. It was like finding $6,000 I didn't know we had.
Join millions of travelers who are getting 6 to 12 times more value from their points with Point Me.
Head to Point Me now and start getting more from your points.
Search for your next award flight today.
Walt Disney Studios chose T-Mobile for Business to help bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. T-Mobile's advanced 5G solutions connected remote production hubs, powering real-time collaboration.
Overtime's about understanding what just happened in the markets that day and preparing for tomorrow. I'm looking to talk to sophisticated investors, beginning investors. I'm always learning.
Closing Bell Overtime, weekdays 4 Eastern and streaming on CNBC+.
The FAA is investigating a failure of air traffic control radios at Denver International Airport earlier this week. Just the latest incidents of failures in the outdated system. Joining us now to weigh in on this and talk about it, maybe even explain it, is former United Airlines Chairman and CEO Oscar Munoz. He is also a CNBC contributor. So glad you could join us this morning, Oscar. So what do you think is going on out there?
Order submitted.
No, good morning. It's early out here on the West Coast, so a host of several issues. I think probably the first thing I would tell to the listening audience is that safety is of the utmost concern for everyone involved in this process.
Order
We
submitted.
have backup systems to backup
Order
systems.
canceled.
We slow things down in order to make sure that the public, the flying public, is safe. Now, having said all that, this nation deserves better, right? We shouldn't have to rely on those things. This is an issue that has been
Order
decades in
submitted.
the making. Both the shortage of the shortage of air traffic controllers, as well as the need to modernize the air traffic control system for this country. And so the decades-long debate has been difficult. It's complex. It's going to take time, talent, and budget. I think the secretary has stepped up and has spoken out about a need to make that investment. I think everybody's waffling sort of on what the number might be. It is a large number, and the time involved is going to be difficult. So we're not out of the woods yet, but it's important that we are at least beginning to take the step. But more importantly, for all of the flying public, it is indeed it's still safe to fly. As an example, there was another issue that happened in Denver a couple of days ago. Just to put it in perspective, while as the media will pick it up as yet another one of these issues and will sort of make a nice big headline out of it, it really was a blip in the overall system. And checking with my United folks in Denver, the large commercial airlines didn't really fly it because the backup system to the backup system did indeed work. And things went on smoothly. So again, for the flying public, rest assured that all the right steps are being taken. But again, progress is being made, hopefully, with a bigger program to actually fix this once and for all. Sorry.
Is this a systems problem, or is it a personnel problem, or a combination of both? According to the president, he says it was the Biden administration's fault, Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, for something about trying to take partially a new system and integrate it with partially an older one, and there was some sort of problem in doing so. And he says now they're going to put it out for bid and get some new modernized systems. So first of all, is that correct, that sort of sequence of events? Second of all, will a new system solve these problems? And third of all, how much of this is personnel? Because as we understand it at the Philly Air Traffic Control Tower, a lot of this is just literally a shortage of people.
So it's a complex issue, as I said. So it's a combination of all of those. With regards to how this initiative, this is, as I said earlier, a decades-long issue. In fact, President Trump, in his first thing, I spent a lot of time with him, in front of him, explaining the issue as it sits and what needed to be done. We actually discussed the possibility of taking it as a private enterprise and doing it as a private initiative because, again, you need time, probably more than one administration. You need a heck of a lot of budget committed for a long period of time. Federal appropriations don't really work that way. And then, of course, you need talent to develop and bring the system. Your question, is a new system going to fix it? Yes, of course. Any new system will relieve the pressure to have so much manpower and experience involved in every one of these transactions. Air traffic controllers it's a really difficult job to begin with. It takes a long time to train, and then you can't really let them loose on the system without oversight of experienced people to ensure that they understand all the nuances of this sort of an antiquated system. So it's a whole different issue. So we need more air traffic controllers. We've needed that for a long period of time, and a new system is crucially needed. It's going to take longer.
Hey, Oscar, who's going to ultimately bear the responsibility? If the FAA basically says, look, at Newark, you got to scale back the number of flights, and they basically start canceling even more flights than they have, first of all those families and other individuals who are supposed to be on those flights need to be rebooked on other flights if they can be. Who pays for that? In some cases, those flights cost a lot more now because there's a lot less space on any of these flights. So what happens?
Well, as far as that specific angle, rebooking of flights, the impact on the flying public, that's a direct impact and hit from the brand and to a degree a revenue aspect on the airlines that are affected for sure. With regards to the paying for all the different flights, that all falls back on the consumer. Of course, as you book a flight, I think airlines will try to rebook you and not have you charged. But again, in the overall scheme of things, this is an impact to the public, the flying paying public to some degree, which is why, again, for instance, EWR, Newark today, yesterday, despite the weather, was flying fairly smoothly. So, but the media speculation around it has been so great that people are going to avoid it.
Order filled. You have folks trying to cancel flights. Someone was saying the other day, should United and other airlines that are flying out of Newark offer the option to freely cancel your flight out of Newark and try to rebook elsewhere? I don't know if you think that's a good idea or not.
Well, again, Newark in particular, with the reduced flights that at least United announced, the United operations yesterday, despite
Order filled.
were operating fairly well. So the reduction of flights. Now, how they handle those people that have been canceled and moved, I know a particular instance of a couple folks that I know that have called me who just had to come in a day early to leave on their international flight. So the airlines and everyone are trying to accommodate it as best as possible, but it's a heck of an inconvenience, and we need this new system. So I'm glad to hear that there's action. I fear that it's going to take longer. Getting to the budget, it's just going to take a really long time, and there's got to be hopefully a more significant way of moving this quicker. Because again, you might remember, we have a broader infrastructure problem in this country. That is, as soon as we get this bill out there ready to go, all of those issues are going to come back and everybody's going to pile in on this bill. So we are a long way from home here. And so I urge all of us to sort of report on the facts and try to push this forward as best possible.
Okay. Oscar, I want to thank you. Appreciate it. It is just past 8 a.m. right now on the East Coast. You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Kelly Evans, who's hanging out today. Thank you so very, very much for waking up early. Becky and Joe are off. Among today's top stories, a number of big ones. CAVA beating revenue estimates and seeing same-store sales growth of about 11%, but the company expecting slower growth in the back half of its fiscal year. I want to show you what CEO Brett Schulman, who joined us earlier in the program, had to say about it.
When you look at it over the past 3 years, we actually grew over 41% in the quarter. And so we guided to moderate in the high 30s for the remainder of the year. So we're really excited about the strength of the business in spite of all the challenges that we've seen in the industry in the first quarter.
And we go whale watching just right now. Berkshire Hathaway revealing its latest big investment moves in its quarterly 13F filings. It exited its stake in Citigroup and sold more of its holdings in Bank of America in the first quarter. Berkshire doubling its stake in beer and wine producer Constellation Brands. So I'm sure there's going to be some folks maybe following on that. And a New York City area alert for commuters. New Jersey Transit shut down today, potentially stranding 350,000 commuting members of the public because the Railroad Engineers Union went on strike just after midnight after negotiators failed to reach an agreement, largely over a dispute on wages. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and CEO of New Jersey's Transit saying they are open to continue negotiations at any time, but it doesn't sound like those negotiations are happening right now, which would be helpful. And then we've got a big merger this morning in the media landscape. Charter Communications and Cox Communications announcing a merger. The proposed transaction valuing Cox at $34.5 billion, and Charter will absorb more than $12 billion in Cox's outstanding debt. Cox is going to own 23% of the combined entity. It's going to keep the Cox name post-closing, and Charter's Spectrum will become the consumer-facing brand. Charter's CEO, Chris Winfrey, will become CEO of the combined company, and Cox's CEO, Alex Taylor, will be chairman of the board. So a big deal, matters to us in so many ways. And we were taking a look. I don't even know where Comcast shares were because for a long time there had been speculation. Would Comcast eventually want to try to merge with a Charter?
Especially under this administration.
Especially under this administration.
Might be more open to, that would be basically a national scale merger, which wasn't previously allowed. By the way, shares of Charter are now at almost 7% premium. It's almost like people are waking up and saying, wait a minute, they were unchanged when this was first rumored and crossing. We're seeing a much bigger reaction now. There's Comcast, still fractionally higher this morning by about 1/3 of 1%.
Look, part of the issue that I don't think gets talked about enough is the wireless situation, which is really
competition.
And Starlink. And not just Starlink, but by the way, Amazon's going to be having Kuiper soon, which is going to be its own satellite service, and then there's going to be competition among satellite providers. This is why the share prices have been
languishing. Even Comcast, it says we're broadband company. That's fine, but to your point, even the fixed Wi-Fi, there's a lot going on here.
Well, look, when you owned the railroad tracks, and there were no other railroad tracks, it's a great business.
Yes.
But once all of a sudden you have other railroad tracks, it becomes a lot more complicated.
And just look at the news again this morning. Was it Starlink coming to United flights or something like that? I mean, every time there's an outage, whether it was that power outage in Spain or similar situations, you can see the market share gains that Starlink is starting to have. So it may not be fully ready for prime time, but rural America, for opportunities there. So yes, these combinations make more and more sense. It's just that this wasn't the particular one that was necessarily foreseen. Futures are higher today. Let's get more on the markets with Mike Santoli. He's down at the New York Stock Exchange. Mike, fourth day could be what, fifth day in a row here for the S&P higher?
Yes, it could. It has slowed down a little bit, but it has been able to tack on, Kelly, in the last day or so. Market's kind of gathering itself after this sprint higher. It's been a very, very strong 6 weeks. Looks almost like a V bottom. And where has it taken us? Well, just about to, late March levels, also to just about the close on November 6th. That was the day after the presidential election. You had that first day pop, a little bit above 59.16. I do think that you've been feeding off of a lot of that built-up anxiety into the lows when you had maximum tariff tightness, policy tightness. Now you have things loosening up. The market's also benefiting from the fact that Treasury yields have come in off of those potential kind of top-of-the-range levels, 5% for the 30-year, above 4.5% for the 10s. So the market here probably needs time to sort of settle out a little bit and consolidate, but so far it's cleared some technical hurdles. Take a look at some things that often move together but have diverged. Here is the XLI, that's the S&P 500 industrial sector ETF, along with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Look at that, for most of the last year, moving right in sync with one another. Now you have S&P industrials blasting off and the Dow languishing. Why? Mostly it's the healthcare components of the Dow, especially UNH, but also Amgen has been a weight. Also within the XLI are things like Uber and a lot of the defense contractors that have been outperformers. So there's a message in there in terms of what the market prefers right now. Take a look, too, at Apple versus Microsoft. A couple of 50-year-old, $3 trillion companies. They often also move in sync, even though they're in kind of different businesses. And here you see Microsoft really sort of blasting off relative to Apple. We know they're in kind of the penalty box Apple is, but you'll see if that maybe reconverges at some point, guys.
All right. And, Mike, by the way, bond yields are calming down a little bit. You think that helps?
Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt, I mean, people bought 5% on the tick on the 30-year and 4.5% on 10s. I think that has mattered the last couple of days.
Mike Santoli, thank you for now. Appreciate it.
Okay, coming up, Galaxy CEO Mike Novogratz joining us for an exclusive interview. His firm listing on the NASDAQ and ringing the opening bell this morning. We're going to talk markets, crypto, and so much more. And then the latest data on housing, the latest read on homes being built in the U.S. will be out, and the number and reaction from real estate pro Ivy Zellman. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back after this.
I'm Allison Lundberg, strategist at AmericanEagle.com. Wagner came to us with a goal to make their website user experience seamless and simplify access to product information for customers. We build enterprise websites like this all the time. Through a fully integrated digital transformation, WagnerSprayTech.com is now a fast, mobile-optimized website with an engaging user experience. For complete website and digital solutions, go to AmericanEagle.com.
How fast can disruption happen? Picasso hit $1 billion in transactions in just 4 years by transforming how luxury vacation homes are owned. Led by former Zillow executives, they are rapidly capturing the $1 trillion second home market with over $100 million already generated in gross profit. And heads up, Picasso's current share price is set to change soon. Even though they're a private company today, you can invest alongside other world-class VCs. Visit Picasso.com/invest to learn more.
Since starting the farmer's dog, Bogart has lost so much weight, and he has so much more energy. It's like a puppy again.
Mambo!
This is a before picture of Bogart. Such a big boy. Pre-portioned packs. Makes it really easy to keep him lean and healthy. And look at him now. He's like a show dog.
Bogue. Can you give Daddy a break here? He's having a hard enough time.
Competition is a huge part of ambition. I've raced cars for about 30 years. Car racing is so competitive, kind of like the financial markets. CNBC's audience is the most ambitious audience there is.
This is the sign of real associates. Real culture, real laughs, real peace of mind, real moments captured by real people. When you see this, you're seeing a real Fidelity associate.
At
Bill.
9:05 a.m. on February 13th, 1909, a group of dairy farmers in Tillamook, Oregon started making cheddar. Over 115 years later, we're still celebrating that moment every chance we get.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Galaxy Digital Holding is going public today on the NASDAQ through a direct listing. It's going to list under the ticker name GLXY.
Order submitted.
An exclusive interview this morning is Galaxy CEO Mike Novogratz.
Order canceled.
In the home of the NASDAQ. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's a big day.
We're excited.
Help the audience that doesn't totally understand the Galaxy story understand what the actual business is, and to the extent that they're going to start to think about the valuation of the business, as an investment banker would say, what are the comps?
Yeah. Well, listen, we started off wanting to be the Goldman Sachs of crypto, and so we started off building a broker dealer and an asset manager, right? A sales and trading business where we would sit between institutions in the crypto market and try to be the bridge really between crypto and this big institutional world. I used to say the herd is coming, right? The institutions are coming. I was way early, but the herd is finally here.
Did anyone try to talk you out of it, by the way?
Oh, everybody. I mean, listen, early on, I bought my first Bitcoin at 100, and it was kind of quirky. But as you try to sell to people, they just didn't get it. And, slowly but surely, people got orange-pilled. First on Bitcoin, and then on the whole idea of this decentralized revolution on what crypto could do. I really think it was Larry Fink that was the pinnacle that once Larry bought in, ever since then, expansion of adoption is rolling downhill. And I think it's now like a snowball that's just going to keep picking up steam. The other part of this was I wanted to surround myself with young people that were really smart, that were creative. I wanted to learn new things. And I wanted to have a group that would be able to pivot. And so now Galaxy really has two businesses. We have pivoted not from just crypto to crypto and AI data center. And
that would be like Goldman saying we also do an AI
Order
data
canceled.
center.
Order filled. That's what I wanted to ask you about, because it's like there's it would be like Goldman meets AWS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jeff Bezos pulled off books to the cloud, and I'm not saying I'm a Jeff Bezos, but what was interesting about Bitcoin mining, we got into Bitcoin mining, and we happened to buy an amazing site in Texas. When the AI need for big power came up, the guys that owned lots of the big power were crypto miners.
Right.
And so we turn out to have one of the best sites. It's called Helios. And we've signed a lease with CoreWeave. We have an option on another big lease with CoreWeave. That's close to $14 billion of rent
wow.
over the next 15 years.
So, okay, but for the investors, though, who are saying to themselves, okay, the valuation of this company should be a blended
Order filled.
Between a Coinbase on one side, I'm making this up, and one of these big REITs that are doing AI power
Order submitted.
We are a data center company plus a crypto company. So yes, listen, our data center company will be, our first cash flow should happen first quarter next year, And so by mid next year, we should have the first section really flowing a whole bunch of cash. And at that point, I think the market will give us a lot of credit for saying, whoa, this is a big opportunity.
Do you think it's a hedge, or do you think that they actually are totally connected?
I think we pivoted. Listen, there's an emotional connection. These are the two most exciting, kind of growth areas in markets, right? AI and the infrastructure needed for AI to exist, and crypto finally at the brink. Right, we're going to get a bill done on Monday. Finally, at the brink of institutional adoption.
Right.
And we have built our company for this moment. And
Order filled.
I couldn't be more excited.
At the risk
Order
of maybe
canceled.
upsetting your regulators, given maybe some of your politics, I'm curious what you make. We had a piece earlier
Order submitted.
about the Trump family. Eric Trump was asked about what's going on with their engagement in the world of crypto. What do you think of that, and how you think it affects either the public's perception and credibility of crypto right now, or any of the other sort of bigger questions that it raises?
Yeah, so the 4 years under Biden were really un-American when it came to crypto. It was just misery. And this administration has been amazing for the space in general. The Elizabeth Warren faction of the Democrats are looking at the Trump participation and using that as a wedge to say, doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel right. What I'm proud about is that the core of the Democrats, Senator Warner, Senator Gallegos, really leading this genius bill, amongst others, have said crypto should be bipartisan. And if the Trump kids do something illegal, they should get prosecuted. We haven't seen them doing anything illegal yet, and I hope they don't. But let's not let their participation sidetrack this entire issue. Partly it's political, right? One of the reasons the Republicans did so well was crypto. They were the biggest funders of Trump. They highlighted this anti-innovation side that was the Democrats were being painted with. I used to say there are more crypto owners than dog owners. And so why are you the party against dogs? And I think the smart Democrats get it. And so we got to get this bill done, which I think happens Monday. Then there's a market structure bill. And then, quite frankly, crypto will go quiet in D.C.
Okay. What will crypto do in terms of the market? Will it go quiet or go loud? At this point, we're looking at Bitcoin sitting at about 104,000.
And I remember, by the way, when we started to come back off the April lows, and maybe gold had the first move, and you said, when gold goes, what was the exact data point? It was like crypto follows, and sure enough, here we are.
Yeah, listen, we had a euphoric top right around the inauguration, and a combination of a lot of things, Trump coin and whatnot. People said, okay, uh-oh, and crypto went back and tested where the election breakout was. Now it looks like we'll take out 106, 107, 108 and make the next leg to 130, 150. And at that point, you're in price discovery, right? I keep thinking gold's a $22 trillion asset and crypto's a $2 trillion asset. And at one point, as more and more young people inherit the money for their old people that, kiss the face of God, you're going to see crypto equal gold. And that's a long way from here.
What about all of the other coins? I know you bought Ethereum, I think, at next to nothing.
I did. Listen, each of these ecosystems is working really hard to prove their worth, right? All of these things are narratives to bring people into their communities. What crypto gave the investment world is this idea that community could create value. I do think the next generation token is going to have to be easier for equity investors to understand. It's going to have to connect the utility of what that ecosystem does.
But are there going to be dozens, or are we literally talking about one or two or three?
I think they're going to be dozens because I think of a project like Hyperliquid, which is a decentralized version of the NASDAQ or of Binance. And it's growing like a weed because all the profits it makes, it uses to buy back its token. And so an equity investor can say, I get that. As it grows, and it's growing very quickly, and it's very transparent. It shows how much money it makes each day. As that happens,
do you own any of this?
And yeah, full disclosure, we own Hyperliquid in our portfolio. The normal equity investor can make sense of it, and traditionally, most crypto valuations have come from this kind of vast concept of network and community, but it was hard to put a discounted cash flow to it.
Finally, give us just a broad macro Novogratz take on what Jay Powell should or should not be doing. Was he too late, or should have he hung out and stayed steady here?
I think Jay Powell is actually doing a good job. I think he's. Listen, it's a very complicated world.
Order filled.
The president's agenda.
Order filled.
The president had a
Order
great week,
submitted.
right? You know, we pulled back from the crazy tariffs, and we now have time at least to see where this is going. And it looks like the Besson camp has won in what tariffs will be here, which is trying to get more fair trade, but not a complete rehaul of the global trade network. He went to the Mideast and, had a great week. A lot of contracts coming back, a lot of, he's very well liked in the Mideast, and that the Republican administration is very well liked. And so I was surprised at how fast the equity market came back. Until people lose jobs, retail keeps buying. And so I think Powell's done the right thing. Like, we are going to see some inflation, and that's almost by definition from that, 8 weeks of 145% tariffs. And then we're going to see some deflation. And so if you're the Fed, let's just let this go up and down and watch.
Mike, I want to thank you. It's great to see you, sir. And
Thank you.
Loving the
Galaxy jacket.
blazer.
My brother Matt named Galaxy way back because we love Star Wars and we were looking to the future. And so I got this jacket symbolically.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Very important day, I know, for the firm. Still to come, some breaking economic news. April import prices, U.S. housing starts. We'll bring you the numbers and the market reaction. As we head to break, also take a quick look at shares of Take-Two Interactive. Video game maker behind GTA, Grand Theft Auto, beating expectations on the top and bottom line. Shares are down 1.5%. The outlook might have something to do with that. CEO Strauss Zelnick will be joining us later this hour. And Squawk Box will be right back.
Thank you, sir.
This thing is so good for your gut health.
I used to have a collagen, I used to have probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking it.
At AT&T Business, we guarantee our best deals on any smartphone with your choice of our best plans. What we can't guarantee, your employees having a similar work style. You hired them. Or your staff all having the same vibe. I like this style. And your design team being on the same page.
Bold choice.
For 2002.
Order canceled.
Order filled.
Our best deals on any smartphone with your choice of our best plans for any employee. And we mean any.
Meet Avocado's best-selling green mattress. Made with certified organic cotton, wool, and latex. Plus pocketed coils to support your body's natural curves for cool and restorative sleep. Featuring a 1-year in-home sleep trial. Complete your bedroom oasis with organic pillows and bedding. Shop today with Avocado Green. Proud supporter of 1% for the planet.
When we started feeding Bogey, the farmer's dog, he lost so much weight. Pre-portioned packs makes it really easy to keep him lean and healthy.
In the morning, he flies up the stairs and hops up on my bed. In the past, he would not have been able to do any of those things.
In our previous home, we had wood, and I never liked it. I wanted a sustainable option, and that made TimberTech the obvious choice for me. I love the indoor-outdoor living. I mean, to be honest, the decks made it even better. I'm so happy with it.
I know how to make slick-looking goggles/glasses, but I have no idea how to make slick-looking social media stuff.
But GoDaddy Aero uses AI to create social content out of thin air, like this one.
Walton Goggins goggle glasses are great gifts for all guys and gals.
Nearly home. I just need more space. I feel like I'm suffocating.
Oh, no. Is this the episode with the breakup?
How will we find the one?
Okay, let's simmer down now. Y'all need Realtor.com, the app the pros trust most. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today.
This could be it.
Better put a key ring on it.
You could say that again.
You better put a key ring on it. Make it real with Realtor.com.
Frank Holland, Worldwide Exchange. Weekdays 5 a.m. Eastern, CNBC. Introducing CNBC Plus, a new streaming platform platform from the #1 source in business news. On-the-go access to international financial markets, business news, and analysis as it happens. Bell-to-bell global live stream, CNBC Plus real-time data, and full episodes of CNBC's Business Day lineup on demand. CNBC Plus. Access any market, anytime, anywhere. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Take a look at the futures on this Friday morning. Dow looks like it would open up about 142 points higher right about now. NASDAQ up about 85 points, and you're looking at the S&P 500 looking to open up about 21 points higher.
And some breaking news in the last hour. Novo Nordisk CEO is stepping down. The Wegovy maker citing recent market challenges as part of the reason for that. The Danish pharma giant said the CEO will remain in his post for a period to support a smooth transition to new leadership. It added the search for his replacement is ongoing and an announcement will be made in due course. Their shares have struggled over the past year, down 52%, while Eli Lilly is largely flat. Again, their product seen in some ways as struggling to keep up in this highly competitive market, and the shares are down 3.5% pre-market.
Meantime, the U.S. Justice Department conducting a criminal antitrust probe into how companies responded to mass concert cancellations at the start of the pandemic in 2020. According to a Bloomberg report, the investigation focused on whether Live Nation and AEG illegally colluded on refund policies for canceled concerts and worked with artists to limit losses. Now, the probe began during the Biden administration, but the report says it has ramped up, in fact, since President Trump's inauguration. Criminal probes don't always lead to charges, and neither company has been accused of wrongdoing. An executive at Live Nation said it's not illegal for artists, promoters, or ticketing companies to work together to solve unprecedented challenges of a global pandemic. So that's going to be the question is, does the pandemic overlay change the dynamic? He said the company set to set its own unique policies and refund terms to support fans and artists. He said there was no collusion, and if any charges result from the probe, Live Nation will defend them vigorously, but we will keep our eyes on that story.
As they've all just had to implement their sort of greater transparency ticketing policies. Yep. So a lot of changes maybe still to come. Up next, breaking economic news, the latest read on housing starts. We'll get reaction from housing pro Ivy Zellman. And then Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick joins us with the latest on some of the hottest video game franchises and how AI will impact the gaming experience. We'll be right back.
At Franklin Templeton, we're always innovating. A leader in public and private markets, digital assets, and custom tax management, we're helping advisors build the portfolios of the future today. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
TimberTech decking looks like real wood.
But there's no hassle of maintaining it.
I just take the leaf blower and blow the leaves off of it. It's fantastic.
We have a sectional out there, and we'll sit out there with a glass of wine. We feel like we're in heaven.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Text CNBC to 710-710 to learn more.
It takes dedication to leave your life's work rock solid for generations. At UBS, we match your ambition with tailored advice to craft a unique outcome for you. Advice is our craft.
The road to opportunity is often the road overlooked. At Enterprise Mobility, we guide companies to unique solutions from our team of mobility experts. Because we believe the more ways we all have to move forward, the further we'll all go.
Breaking earnings news, Home Depot, Palo Alto Networks, Target, Snowflake, reporting, market reaction, expert analysis, strategies for your portfolio. All next week on CNBC and streaming on CNBC Plus.
We have a dangerous threat.
Get tickets now.
He escaped.
He's not from our world, but he's making himself right at home.
Look, I got a dog.
You sure that's a dog?
Yeah.
Rough.
Agent Cobra Bubbles, we have a blue dog to catch.
Lilo and Stitch.
I'm gonna give you to 3 Stitch. 1,
Rated PG, May 23rd. Get tickets now.
It's the special mattress offer you've been waiting for. 2 great mattress brands, one low price, just $5.95 at the Rooms to Go Memorial Day mattress sale. Right now, for a limited time only, get this Sealy Posturepedic or Beauty Rest mattress in twin, full, queen, or king size. Your choice, just $5.95. That's 2 great brands, one incredible low price, only $5.95. Plus, check out our other great mattress buys at the Rooms to Go Memorial Day mattress sale. Sleep better, save better.
Welcome back. We're just seconds away from April housing starts and the import price data. Futures are still higher across the board as the market comes off a nice winning stretch in recent days, about 4 for the S&P now, which would open 20 points higher pre-market. Dow would be up 136, NASDAQ up 79. Shares of United Health are rebounding this morning by about 3.5% after being down 25% week to date. That, of course, had put major pressure on the Dow. In fact, it had taken off, I think, 1,500 Dow points year to date just from the underperformance of UNH there. So that rebound is helping somewhat. But again, as you can see, it's pretty much across the board. Treasury yields as well, stabilizing, doing a lot to help sentiment potentially as Capitol Hill remains very busy marking up the budget bill. The 10-year yield is now below 4.40, and the 30-year is below right around 4.85. Rick Santelli is standing by at the CME in Chicago as we wait for the data. Morning, Rick.
Good morning, Kelly. Indeed, we're waiting for housing starts, permits, import-export prices. But I think the continuing big story is what has been motivating interest rates to be more to the upside than the downside, especially long-dated Treasury yields. And I am convinced that it's the topics of the day. It's legislation pending, tax issues pending, the notion that much of what we are looking at doesn't make deficits worse, but it doesn't make them better. The data is hitting the wires on this Friday. Housing starts for the month of April coming in very close to expectations, 1,361,000 seasonally adjusted annualized units. And do remember, some of the best data that we've had recently was going back into February when it was just a whisker under 1.5 million. We do see that on the permits and start side, things are starting to happen a bit. Maybe this notion of being locked into low mortgage rates, it has a half-life where things start to change a bit. Permits coming in a little light, 1,412,000. We're expecting a number closer to 1.45 million. And of course, this is sequentially lower than our last look. And if you looked at starts, it was a bit higher than our last look. All right, now let's look at import prices.
Order filled.
Order filled. On a month-over-month basis, they are up 1/10. We're looking for down 3/10. Up 1/10 would be the highest since February, when January and February were both up 2/10. So if you're looking for some type of April Liberation Day in these numbers, it is higher than expected. But as I said, it's the second lowest of the year. Now, if we look at ex-petroleum, what a big difference. All of a sudden, you're up 0.4%. Up 0.4 would be the highest level going back to April of last year. Let's take a year-over-year perspective on import prices, up 1/10. And just like the headline number, we're expecting a down number.
Order filled.
However, up 1/10 would be a number that doesn't really fit out of line. It's not really showing me any information. But once again, if I look at export prices, we're expecting a big drop here, down 0.5%. It comes in up 1/10. And finally, on a year-over-year basis, export prices are 2% versus 2.6% on our last look. 2% would equal the last month of 24. To find a lower number, you're in November when it was 0.9. So we do see that there is some movement. Most of the movement on prices is based on expectations versus some sequential or issues trying to find trends in some of the tariff news of the day that purportedly is going to either pull forward, which it has, or raise prices generically. If we look at yields, well, it's very interesting because on the week, we were about unchanged on a 10-year. We're still a little bit higher on yields over the week on a 2-year. But all maturities right now are lower yields on the session. But 4.40, it wasn't that long ago. Many thought we were going to spend time testing and we're getting very close to 4%. And we did. It bounced right on 4% and went up over 4.5%. I think that's very telling. And once again, I can make this easy. I think interest rates are going to be very firm on the long end, 4.75% to 5%. But The real story is that we're not going to spend much time under 4%. That's my
Order
opinion.
filled.
Kelly, back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you. And on that note, let's get more reaction on the housing front from Diana Olick about rates, building permits, housing starts. Diana, what's in the soup?
All of it, all of it. Look, as Rick said, the headline number was right along expectations, but you really got to break this number down into single family and multifamily because that's where the real story is. Single family was down 2% month to month, down 12% year over year. And this is all about tariffs. It's about the stock market. It's about mortgage rates going over 7% in April when these numbers were going on. And it's really about that builder confidence that we saw in the numbers yesterday that was down to a 3-year low. And that's because builders are just not seeing that buyer traffic. They're seeing buyers hesitate. And so they're just not putting as many holes in the ground right now. And that's not what we need. We do need more. So on the single family, it is a disappointment. But you look at multifamily up 11% month to month, up 28.8% year over year. This is interesting because we saw a record supply of new units come on the market in the last 2 years. Just a construction boom in multifamily, and then it was kind of grinding to a halt because they felt it might be oversupplied. But then we start to see more renters staying in place, more rental demand, and it's interesting now, you're seeing more multifamily starts. So it looks like the rental market is saying, wait, we're not oversupplied. We need to build more. We have the demand for it. So again, it's a very different story between multifamily and single family. Would have been nice to see those single family starts up higher, but frankly, I'm surprised they're not lower. Kelly?
Absolutely. Diana, for now, thanks. Appreciate it. Diana Olick. For more of the housing market, let's bring in Ivy Zellman, Zellman & Associates Executive Vice President. Ivy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What jumps out to you about the latest data, including, as Diana references, really bad builder confidence numbers yesterday?
Well, actually, the single-family numbers were not surprising at all. In fact, they were in line with our expectations. I think the builders are really challenged right now. Demand is definitely weakened, predominantly entry-level demand, especially out in the tertiary areas. I think the pullback is expected. The cost of land is not abated. Builders are not in a position to raise prices. So frankly, pulling back on activity makes sense. Whereas in multifamily, given the fact that renters are staying in place longer, as Diana indicated, we've seen rent inflation start to come back to markets where there hadn't been a lot of supply. The Sun Belt in the U.S. is where the supply was the greatest. In other parts of the country, we're seeing rents that are back in the mid-single, even 6% range. So I think the Sun Belt's lagging, but the optimism is that given the lack of affordability in single family, we're going to see renters stay in place longer, and therefore absorptions for demand will remain very robust. So we're seeing more activity, more developers thinking it's a good opportunity to come into the market now, given the lull in development that had occurred the last 2 years.
All right, so maybe that kind of works its way in longer term. Not to be like overly tactical about this, but do you kind of get into the ways that investors could play these trends or no?
Well, at this point, the builders have rallied back after having pulled back pretty substantially in the fears of tariffs and uncertainties. You know, what I would say is right now, if you're an investor looking to be long housing, I think that you probably would rather be in single family rental, multifamily, given that we are really at trough levels of rent. Coming off of 24 was trough, and we do see reacceleration in the rental market, but we think that the for sale market, at least on the new construction side, will remain pretty challenged here. So probably be more patient putting new money to work.
I always wonder, though, if the single-family rental stocks get political pressure on them, right? I mean, they're commonly brought up as the contributing to the reason why home prices have gone up, why rents have gone up. You know, it's the Wall Street landlords and all the rest of it. So is there political risk in these names?
You know, I think the political risk has been out there for quite some time, and I think it's stabilized. But keep in mind that the institutional investors account for less than 2% of total single-family rental holdings. It's really the mom and pops that dominate that market. So I think that the political aspects need to, or the politicians don't fully understand that. And there's actually been talk, which would make a lot of sense. At least there was a bill proposed that all the investors, the mom and pops that own homes today, you know, how do we get them to sell them so that first-time buyers can have more access to affordable housing? Problem is they have to pay capital gains after significant home price inflation. Maybe if we eliminated the capital gains, if they sold those homes to first-time buyers, there would be a lot more inventory in the market.
Do you think something like that would come to pass? Could they even logistically pull that off?
There was a bill proposed. The NAR was behind it, and I haven't heard much about it. So I don't know if it's just dead on arrival, but it made a lot of sense to me. Yeah,
because that's where the inventory is. If you want to unlock inventory and kind of rebalance, you know, it's it's with people with 3% mortgages.
I mean, a lot of individual investors have a few homes in a portfolio. They could have 10 homes in their portfolio and they'd like to sell, but the capital gain taxes are too significant. That's the feedback that the NAR received, and that's where the bill stemmed from.
No, it's an excellent point. With broad mortgage rates now back up towards 7%, it was a little bit of an unanticipated development, here as we are in mid-May. What impact is that having?
The market's really slow. I mean, the affordability is extremely stretched. We had so much demand during COVID. I call it pull forward. We saw normalizing demand. So I think that the market is just fatigued, coupled with so much uncertainty, with affordability being obviously stretched. I think buyers are stepping to the sidelines. Move Up had been really resilient, but in the last 30 to 60 days, Move Up is starting to show some slowing. And there are pockets in the country that are more under pressure than others, where production builders are very prevalent, predominantly Florida and Texas markets. But I was in Denver this week, and Denver is really seeing pressure too. And that's a combination of the buyers that are stepping to sidelines, the lack of affordability, and just concern that builders, don't have pricing power, and incentives such as mortgage rate buydowns are not really incrementally moving the needle as much as they had been.
Well, I hate to cheer for that, but I'm going to tell my sister that maybe there's some opportunity. Ivy, thanks very much. Appreciate it today. Ivy Zelnick.
Thank you.
Okay. Coming up next, Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick. He's going to join us in the company's latest quarter. Where things stand on Grand Theft Auto and so much more. We're going to get into all of it. Plus, take a look at the stock right now. I don't know if we've got that stock. We're going to show it to you. You're looking at $232.
Coming back.
It's coming back, but also look at what 1 year is.
Incredible.
60%. Stock and Zelnick after this.
The Infiniti QX60. Comfort redefined. Luxury rediscovered.
Invest in an Infiniti during the once-in-a-springtime event. We won't raise the MSRP on any vehicle before June 2nd.
Silver is at a 10-year high. Kootenai Silver boasts one of the largest resources owned by a junior company. With the new high-grade discovery in Mexico, the potential for growth and leverage to silver is significant. Kootenai Silver.
Does your wife know you spent over $600 on takeout?
We're busy. We don't have time to cook.
Okay, but do you know you're also paying for a meal kit on top of that?
Wait, really?
Look, just get Rocket Money. It shows you all your expenses in one place, and it even tracks your subscriptions.
Order
and any
submitted.
subscription you don't want, which for you, there's a lot you don't need, you can cancel right from the app.
So you mean I don't have to call customer service to cancel?
Nope, no hold times or anything, and they'll even try to get you a refund for the money you spent, which I'm sure your wife will be very grateful for.
I'm gonna download it right now.
Discovering innovation today helps drive growth tomorrow. As a leading global asset manager, PGIM has established a track record of helping investors capitalize on growth opportunities. PGIM Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
I'm into comedy. I'm also into flambanging. What I'm not into is heartburn. That's why I take Voquezna.
Here in Keenan's stomach, Voquezna can kick some acid and relieve heartburn related to non-erosive GERD.
Voquezna is the first and only FDA-approved treatment of its kind.
And it heals erosive esophagitis, known as erosive GERD.
Ooh la la.
93% of adults with erosive GERD were healed by 2 months. Of those healed, 79% stayed healed. Plus, Voquezna can provide heartburn-free days and nights. Other serious stomach conditions may exist. Don't take if allergic to Voquezna or while on rilpivirine. Serious allergic reactions include trouble breathing, rash, itching, and swelling of face, lips, tongue, or throat. Serious side effects may include kidney problems, intestinal infection, fractures, life-threatening skin reactions, low B12 or magnesium levels, and stomach growths. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions, medications, and if you have diarrhea, persistent stomach pain or fever, decreased or bloody urine, seizures, dizziness, irregular heartbeat, jitteriness, chills, shortness of breath, muscle aches or weakness, spasms of hands, feet, or voice.
Voquezna can help kick some acid, and so can you.
Ask your doctor about Voquezna.
Experience the power of CNBC Pro. Track your portfolio from every angle on one optimized platform. Never miss a moment with exclusive access to market-moving interviews and stock picks. All new investing tools securely linked to your brokerage accounts. Plus, CNBC Global Market News and analysis tailored to your holdings. Become a smarter investor with the power of CNBC Pro. Go to cnbc.com/getpro now.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Shares of Take-Two Interactive slipping after the video game maker reported its fourth quarter results after the bell. The company issued weaker than expected guidance for the full year bookings, but stock, we mentioned, it's up 60% year on year. Joining us right now to break down the numbers and what is going on. We'll also talk about Grand Theft Auto, as you might imagine. Strauss Zelnick is here, Take-Two chairman and CEO. What is going on? Where are we here?
Listen, we just reported a great year, pretty much firing across the entire range of the company. So Rockstar reported a better quarter for Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto Online. 2K had terrific releases with Civ 7. NBA is up year over year, sold in almost 10 million units. And Zynga has multiple hits in market, which is tough to do in the mobile space.
But everybody's focused on Grand Theft Auto 6, right? Like that is the...
Is that a but? That seems like an and.
But the fact that your shares could be up 60% with the release delay of that by another 6 months
That's what I was going to ask. Let's talk about the delay, because people just want to understand what's happening there.
Well, it's pretty short delay. It's less than 6 months. And generally, when we announce a date certain, we're able to hit that date. But the key thing is that Rockstar Games is trying to create the best thing anyone's ever seen in entertainment, not just interactive entertainment. That's a tall order, and I think consumers have huge hopes for the title. We just launched the second trailer to 475 million views in 24 hours, setting a new record. The last record, incidentally, was ours.
How much do you think the whole system was thinking about that in terms of the ecosystem? Was for the holidays? Was thinking about that game?
Well, let's not overstate the case. We all look at one another's release schedule and make sure that we don't stack up releases. So that's not unique to Grand Theft Auto. But the delay itself is really a reflection of desire to polish and create the best possible experience for consumers. And we as a company have been known not to have sort of slavish devotion to release dates, but rather to seek the highest quality entertainment. And that's really, supported our success over many years.
Have you played with it? Have you seen it?
Is it done? Is it ready?
Done? You don't play a lot.
Is it still rendering?
I'm not a gamer.
We were talking about this earlier. You don't play a lot. So
not a lot. I don't play video games.
At all?
No, I do not. I'm not the consumer in chief. I am responsible
So when they show you the game,
right?
Do you offer notes on the game? How does that work?
I share my opinions pretty openly. I think being the consumer in chief in an entertainment business as the CEO is probably a mistake. I wasn't the consumer in chief in the movie business or the television business or the music business, even though, I certainly can read a script and I definitely love music and I was a musician. That's not my role. My role is to attract, retain, and motivate the best talent in the business and then get out of their way.
In terms of just trends in the business, how much of it is going mobile and how much do you think stays on the console?
Well, mobile is a fast-growing part of our business, and the interactive entertainment business broadly is the fastest-growing part of the entertainment business. The reason that we acquired Zynga nearly 3 years ago is because mobile is such an important part of the business. Today, that's a little bit over 50% of our net bookings, and it's going incredibly well.
What does that look like to you 5 years from now?
Well, that's actually the point. The reason that we made that decision at the time that we did was I looked actually 10 years down the road and said, I can't imagine in 10 years only being exposed to console and PC. I think we have to be exposed to mobile. That's where a huge part of the market is. That's basically our older consumers and our female consumers are actively in the mobile business.
And so it's different. That's what's interesting about it is, okay, people are going to be on the phone, but they're still, the core gamers are not necessarily migrating in the same way.
It's not a migration. It's in the same way that people aren't migrating from half-hour comedies to 2-hour movies. And people aren't migrating from 2-hour movies to TikTok. These serve different needs at different times and sometimes different populations.
Can I ask you to weigh in on a headline this morning? Because I'm curious what you think. I don't know if you saw Charter is merging with Cox.
I did.
And I would imagine broadband is an important part of the way you think about how you get these games to people.
Absolutely.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think happens? Do you think the government allows this? And do you think there's going to be a lot more of these mergers?
I think the combined market share is such that this FTC is likely to be friendly to the deal. I think the last FTC obviously would have stood in the way because,
what else would they do?
Well, exactly. I mean, they stood in the way of you grabbing a taxi on Broadway. So I think it'll probably be fine. I think it's a reflection of the fact that with cable programming going where it's going, which is to say in a southerly direction, what remains is a really good distribution business, and that consolidation makes sense.
Is the satellite business matter to you? Do you think about that? We were talking. I only mentioned that because we were talking about sort of the train tracks and the idea that maybe satellite is ultimately going to upend the value of those train tracks.
It's really, I mean, what you're saying with new satellites is actually just traditional overbuilding. But overbuilding is valuable when people are underserved in areas that have fiber.
Right.
And that does still exist both here and outside of the U.S. So I'm not worried about overbuilding actually destroying value in distribution because, first of all, it's not historically the case. Secondly, there's so much opportunity for broader distribution. From our point of view, as an entertainment company, a software creator, more distribution, better distribution, always a good thing.
You want the overbuilding.
Well, we want to be able to reach consumers wherever they are in the highest quality way.
Which may include, we talk about, and maybe, we could talk a little bit about whether it is the Middle East or other regions that you're eyeing for expansion, but, these are not, it's not just kind of industrial businesses that have their eye on those dollars. And I think that was highlighted with the president's trip this week, and some of it was all about AI. This is not the oil stories from 20 and 30 years ago.
Oh, that's right. And look, our business still is basically a United States and Western Europe and selected parts of Asia story. That's where our revenue comes from. And yet there's this massive growing market of consumers who love video games located in the Middle East, located in India, located in Africa. We are not serving that population in the way we need to. And if we don't focus on that now, where we're going to be in 10 years.
Right.
So,
is the internet a part of that?
Absolutely. I mean, distribution, obviously. Higher quality, particularly for Africa and India, is a big issue. The region, Middle East, is pretty well developed.
Let me ask you a different question, just pegging off of what Kelly just said, which was AI. Does that lower the cost of the creation of these games in a material way from a programming perspective, meaning the way these games are going to get programmed in the future is going to be like through prompts? Some great engineers are just going to be prompting the system, and maybe that's a benefit to you. Or on the flip side, is that like a moat that actually is a problem? Meaning, if I can make a great game myself, or somebody else can, what does that do to the business?
Well, making a great game is actually the job, right? Making a game, not our job. So, can ChatGPT-4 make and program a game now? Yes. Is it a game that anyone is buying now?
No.
So what technology will do for our business, as it always has, is it will reduce the cost of the lower level tasks, make them more efficient, perhaps, reduce the time required by those tasks. And then we and everyone else who's competitive in the business will focus on enhancing quality, and ultimately genius is a human activity, not a computer-driven activity. Now, I know there's some people in Silicon Valley who disagree with me, but I'm going to go with my view, which is human beings still have to have creative genius. Remember what AI is, what generative AI is. Its data sets meet large language models, meet compute. Data sets, by definition, are backward-looking. Creativity, by definition, is forward-looking.
Does it change the actual way, though, either not just the games get made, but maybe the various permutations with which the games can go? Which is to say that right now, they're sort of, not set courses, obviously, because you can keep going in different, but I would assume that once you get into sort of generative AI, if generative AI could actually be continuing to generate the game itself, all of a sudden the sort of choose your own adventure nature of all this gets
Order canceled.
Well, I mean, without spending too much time, I'll give you an example. I agree with you. Currently,
Order
if you
submitted.
play a robust video game, one of ours, and you're listening to the dialogue, all of that dialogue has been written and recorded by human beings. All of it, 100% of it. Thousands and thousands of pages of dialogue. It's one of the things that takes a long time and costs a lot of money. We could imagine a situation where stories are created by human beings and scripts are recorded by human beings, but then having done that, there's some ongoing engagement that AI can enhance so that the experience feels more natural and is more bespoke to you or to Kelly, and you can play the game over and over again. You know, we still think talent needs to be paid for that, incidentally.
I was going to say.
We still want to make sure that the talent is handled appropriately, and we have made sure that that's the case or our ongoing
could the
negotiations.
Talent give you approval? And I'm sure this is all part of what's in the works to say, yes, once I've recorded 80 pages for you or whatever, you're allowed to then extrapolate a little.
As long as you get paid for it. They got to get paid for it.
Right, true.
Strauss, thank you for coming in this morning. It's nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Appreciate it. And up next to check on the markets, we got some of that data at 8:30. We'll see if that's affecting the state of play this morning. We'll be right back.
Comcast Business doesn't just power businesses. We help turn them into logistics mastering, supply chain transforming, seamlessly restocking, frictionless paying, poke bowl ordering, cyber securing, mobile access granting, data managing. Welcome to the worlding modern businesses. Powering the engine of modern business, Comcast Business.
At Morgan Stanley, old school hard work meets bold new thinking to help you see untapped possibilities and relentlessly work with you to make them real.
Sir, it seems that the Gladiator is getting a lot of positive social sentiment.
Innovation changes everything. With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
At Federated Hermes, we don't just kick the tires of our MDT active ETFs. We put the stocks in them through a ruthless vetting process. Because no one wants a flat investment.
Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World.
CNBC's daily digital show has trading updates, the latest headlines, a global perspective, and high-profile interviews. Scan to watch CNBC's Crypto World, sponsored by Crypto.com.
At Ace, we know whether you grill with charcoal, gas, pellet, or griddle, we've got the perfect grill for you. Because only your local Ace has all the best brands in one place, like Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. With free assembly and delivery of your new grill, along with all the sauces, rubs, and grilling extras, you'll have everything you need for your perfect barbecue. That sounds pretty perfect. Around the block, what you need in stock, with service so good it's guaranteed.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Wow, you guys did great with this place. Yeah, and it was easy to buy with all the help we got from Navy Federal Credit Union.
I can't imagine where we'd be without them.
So what's shaking?
Nothing. Nothing's shaking.
Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission.
Walmart's business is strong enough to withstand tariff headwinds without the company raising prices. That's according to former U.S. CEO Bill Simon, who joined Fast Money last night, focused on Walmart's expanded American gross profit margin last quarter.
They also reported their general merchandise categories were flat-ish because they had mid-single-digit price deflation. So all that product that has the tariffs on it, they reported last quarter actually went down in price. So that sort of gives them room, in my view, to manage any tariff impact that they would have.
That's his take, as he mentioned. But yesterday, Walmart CFO told CNBC that tariffs could prompt the retailer to increase prices starting at the end of this month. And that headline got tons of traction and attention. Speaking of Fast Money, by the way, the Fast Money Live event is sold out. But if you'd like to join the wait list, there's still a chance you can score a ticket. You know, people get sick. Stuff comes up. They fly out of Newark. Go to cnbcevents.com/fastmoney or scan the QR code on your screen.
Meantime, NVIDIA looking to stay competitive in China by building a new research and development center in Shanghai. This is interesting, just given the geopolitical situation that we're living in right now. This is all according to the Financial Times, which says the facility would focus on the needs of Chinese customers and how to satisfy them in light of the restrictions placed on the company by the Trump administration. Earlier this week, the White House released a new round of AI chip restrictions targeting China, the Commerce Department flagging the need to secure supply chains against potential chip smuggling. NVIDIA, though, is keen to tap, of course, the Chinese market. Last week, CEO Jensen Huang estimated the country could represent a $50 billion opportunity in the next few years. But the idea that NVIDIA is going to basically like set up a hub in China at a time when the president is trying to
the president who just highlighted my friend Jensen in contrast to Tim Cook this week.
So it's
look forward to his reaction on this. But also at the same time, NVIDIA's in a tough position because they are literally being hamstrung from their potentially biggest market for the good reason of national security. So there was that big report by Morgan Stanley this week that kind of said, look, the Chinese AI pipeline and infrastructure is much more developed than you might realize. They're going to continue at pace. So,
by the way, they may continue even at a more accelerated pace. The mother of invention is a very interesting situation. So when you get into a situation you don't have access to the chips and you actually have to create them.
Absolutely. So
I mean, that's what DeepSeek was ultimately, I think.
I look forward to the president's reaction to this one. Yeah.
Meantime, House Speaker Mike Johnson saying that his planned budget committee meeting will take place today, at which various sections of the bill focusing on President Trump's top priorities will be combined into one. The Budget Committee markup on what the president has called one big, beautiful bill set for 9 a.m. This is despite concerns over the plan from multiple factions within the GOP. Those focus on at least two areas: state and local tax deduction caps important to Republicans from higher tax states, and the date by which some Medicaid recipients would have to begin looking for work, even if things go smoothly in the House. The Senate expected to make those changes to the bill, and we talked to Jake Sherman earlier this morning, who called that, who said there's a low-grade rebellion.
Yes, and also said the SALT caucus holds all the cards.
All the cards.
And this could go till December.
Thanks for playing with the cards this morning.
Thanks for
Great
having
to see
me.
you.
Get some rest.
You get some rest. Make sure you join us on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Squawk on the Street begins right now.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Jim Cramer, David Faber at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Bulls trying to nudge the S&P ever closer to 6K as these yields come in after Thursday's spike. Got our first big M&A deal since April 2 and all those 13 Fs to play with. Our roadmap begins with stocks trying to build on this recent run. S&P's coming off 4 straight days of gains. Tech's on pace for the best week in over a month.
Keeping an eye on shares of Novo Nordisk. They're dropping this after its CEO stepping down in the face of what is, of course, a very competitive obesity drug market, namely with Eli Lilly. And cable mega deal this morning. Yeah, got your attention, right? Jim? Charter is going to acquire privately held Cox Communications. It's only been around 126 years as a company, creating one of the largest cable companies in the U.S. And, of course, it is one of the biggest deals we've seen as well so far this year.
Let's get to the markets this morning. S&P is aiming for 5 straight positive sessions. Tech is leading the way this week. NVIDIA and Tesla up double digits since Monday, Jim. XLK up 30% since April 8th.
Well, look, I think that there was this major decision that the president made, which is that, without saying it point blank, he's repealing the rules that Biden, the midnight rules that Biden set up about the 18 friendly countries that can get NVIDIA, which, by the way, they already had it, for a lot of these. So it was actually just one of the most quizzical things. And now the president goes and he's become one of the great salespeople ever for NVIDIA, but also for Boeing. And David, you know that the tenor of things has changed dramatically. And the tenor is, rather than worry about putting embargo on China, surround China with goodwill to countries that might otherwise been in China's orb. It's Kissinger-like, David.
Really?
Yes.
We're now in Kissinger territory.
Yeah, we're in Kissinger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kissinger actually went to China.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, that was true.
Nixon,
Nixon there, too. And
yeah.
No,
you want to come up with another analogy? You want to try something different?
Well, no, because remember, Kissinger opened China, and Navarro wanted to close China.
Okay.
So then Besson, the Treasury Secretary, is a little more Kissinger-like. There's nothing wrong with that.
All of which means what for the stock market there, my friend?
It means that let 1,000 NVIDIA chips bloom. No, it means that we're in a situation where instead of thinking, okay,
we're going to be in a declining situation big. We are now in a contained decline. Possible contained.
A contained, self-imposed decline.
Exactly right.
Where we have tariffs of 13%, let's call it, across the board, something like that.
Well,
10. I mean, the effective tariff rate of the United States.
We went from being it could be empty shells a la Soviet Union to being okay. Look, we're going to muddle through. And the Walmart call was when the stock was down 3. It was almost an outrage, an insult to what Doug McMillon was saying at the exact time, which is like, look, we're going to do this. We're going to get this through. And don't forget, we're making a lot of money on memberships. And it was such a tour de force conference call. And it was basically saying, look, don't worry about it. It's not going to be great, but it's not going to be cataclysmic. So we took cataclysm off the table this week. Everyone was worried about 4.5. We finished the week at 4.39. So I understand why the market was up. It just did. We just didn't have enough negativity, and we had a president who sold a lot of Boeing planes.
What do you make of this Journal story?
It scared me.
The headline of which I never want to scare you. You stay calm, because we don't. You know, a fright here could end very quickly. Walmart's price hikes open door to increases from everybody else. Now that's what the Journal's going with. We talked to John David Rainey, the CFO of Walmart, yesterday. I don't know that I want to go there.
That's about as misread of the conference call as you can have, which is what Walmart was really saying is, listen, we're going to try to hold prices down. Now, some areas we can. That did not open the door for anybody to raise price. It opened the door for margin squeeze Target.
He also talked about trying to, obviously, again, the customer is key for Walmart. Not that it isn't for every retailer, but to potentially, if they have to take margin out of a different non-tariff affected product, to help one that is, so that they can keep the price competitive in their point.
That was very good, thank you, because he said, listen, we're not going to do product by product. We're going to do this is this and this is that, and we're going to use kind of almost an algorithmic way. We have 2 themes this week.
But it doesn't mean that prices aren't going to rise, Jim.
No, I'm saying everything's going to be contained is what I'm saying. It's not going to be good, but it'll be contained. And once you take off the catastrophe, then you can start.
And you said we have 2 themes. I know when I interrupted.
First theme is that Netflix goes to the upfront, right? Everyone's a little more like Netflix, you know. And then Walmart, their call was like, hey, we're a little more like Amazon. We're more like Amazon than you think. And this Vizio deal is being ignored, and I think the Vizio deal's big, the TV deal. I think because it's really good for their advertising. The advertising gross margins are extraordinary for Walmart.
And for everybody, advertising is just a great, it can be on, online advertising.
I love the call. And John David, it was good that it was John David, because there was another guy that had a similar name, so I knew which guy was talking. That in itself was great. Okay, that was great.
Well, to David's point, the Journal, and I think Barron's had a similar piece, that maybe you're right. Walmart's disciplined on price, but it gives other people cover to raise.
Look, we're going to have Target next week, and you've got this huge problem, which is scale. I just think that Walmart, Costco was up big yesterday, and because people realize maybe Costco's model's better. Now, Target is trying to bottom here because it's got that really great yield. And all the stocks that get to 4.6, they have bottomed. That is like where people just say, you know what, I'm now being compensated for the risk of a shortfall. I think that PepsiCo yesterday, stock bounced. 4.5, 4.6 is the magic number.
In terms of the yield, yeah. We were talking about it with Merck as well, of course, down sharply, but that yield also similar territory, 4.4. And then I noticed it bounced as well.
Yeah. And
right after we talked about it yesterday.
Exactly right. And that's where buyers come in, because they say, listen, I have a bond with a little bit of upside, but the declines have been incredible. And by the way, the declines they're experiencing were not unlike the declines that tech experienced.
Right.
I mean, you see Broadcom. At one point, Broadcom is down low, and then I know because you like you're a big hot tan
big hot
fan.
Tan fan. Yeah, big.
Yeah, I know you are.
Yeah. Back to $1 trillion, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, back. Well, it's never. They were at 2.8. But
Right.
if you look at I know David is such. He looks at reverse Head and Shoulders and Head and Shoulders. This may be the most perfect reverse Head and Shoulders about to go higher right shoulder that I have come across.
Yeah, I saw the higher right shoulder. I was keeping a close eye on that. You don't want it to be followed by the higher left shoulder, though.
No,
or the midsection.
David, it's not a flag pattern. You always.
Yeah. David moves on. JK just said in my ear.
Why? Because people love charts. David doesn't move on.
I'm moving on.
David doesn't move on.
I'm moving on. You know why I'm moving on? Because we got a huge cable deal. It is for a private company, but Charter shares are, I thought they were going to be up a lot more than that, actually. Let's keep an eye on them.
It was up very big.
Yeah, they were.
Somebody must have kiboshed
450. Now the call's going on. We're monitoring that, but let me give you the details on the deal because it is one of the largest deals we've seen this year, and of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, for a company that has been.
Arya's in Succession, and Arya's in this one.
Excuse me? What?
I heard that Arya Burkhoff is in this. No.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, what are you talking about? Yes.
Give a little granularity.
Yes, Lion Tree is one of the advisors here. That has very little to do with what I'm going to talk about here, though.
I just
because
like that.
it's a large deal. Charter is going to become, of course, they're adding 6 million new subscribers when the deal closes, which won't be for a while, probably the middle of next year. But here's some of the terms for you. Now, again, Cox, a private company. It has been certainly something that has been sought after by any number of companies through the years, and there are the deal terms. $4 billion in cash, they get a convert, will become common, and then 33.6 million common shares. They're going to own 23% of this combined company when all is said and done, and they also take on $12 billion of Cox's debt. That's how you get to the $34.5 billion in terms of the overall enterprise value. As I said, probably middle of next year is when this thing closes. 6 million new customers, 12 million homes. The Spectrum brand is what is going to be at play here. They're going to change the actual name of the company to Cox, but and as we've detailed many times, Charter has been very aggressive in wireless. That will continue. Very aggressive in kind of programming and try to figure new things out. And I'll get to regulatory in a minute. But let me just talk about Cox for a moment, because why now? And it's a question I was able to ask a number of people around the deal. And they have, listen, Chris Winfrey, the CEO of Charter, has been, and he said as much to me. I spoke to him briefly this morning. You know, gaining the trust and confidence of Cox's management team over a long period of time. As for how long the actual deal terms have been negotiated, seems to be relatively short. Let's call it 2 to 3 months in terms of actual negotiations. But the question of why now, and again from a number of other people close to it, is, you know, things are moving more quickly. It's becoming even more competitive. We've talked so often about Starlink and the competition it represents in terms of satellite broadband and others. Things are becoming competitive in wireless, AI, need for software development, new products. And so now is the time that Cox chose to say, all right, we're ready to do this deal. And of course, they will continue to have a significant ownership stake here is 23%. They're going to have some board seats. Their CEO will be chairman of the combined company as well, Alex Taylor. So he will be the chairman. Chris Winfrey will be running things as the CEO. And then there's a Liberty broadband deal, which was announced last November, that allows for all of this. If you recall, at the time, Charter said, we're going to buy in Liberty Broadband's ownership stake by issuing our shares. There was always a discrepancy, so it was valuable to them to do it as well. And they're going to issue roughly 34 million shares to do that. That was going to take years. They're moving that up. And so when this deal closes, that deal closes. And you basically, in some ways, have Cox moving into the ownership position that Liberty had in many ways, with much of the similar governance provisions. And you're off to the races for the combined company. The hopes of which, of course, that margins will go up. They're talking about $500 million in overall synergies in terms of just accretion from being able to do more for potentially less in terms of the scale of the company. And be more competitive. On regulatory, you'd imagine there might be a concern, just because there always is, but it's a domestic deal. Charter has all of its employees in the U.S., 95,000 of them. Cox has almost all of its employees in the U.S., about 15,000 employees overall, but 2,000 are overseas. Those jobs, I understand, are going to be coming back to the U.S. So you can imagine, Jim, they can paint a very positive picture for regulators. These two companies do not compete with each other. And so from a regulatory perspective, while certainly there will be, always is, a review, it's hard to see that there will be, on the merits at least, a case to be made to say no.
Will anyone else want to come in?
I don't think so. But I say that, you know, first of all, Cox can choose whom they want to partner with. Right. This is not a public company. Right. And so they have made their choice. And I think Mr. Winfrey, and this is my understanding from a number of people around this, has really, he spent the time. He's the one who should, sort of get the credit in terms of working hard to gain the trust and confidence of the Cox family. And so I doubt it.
Okay.
Will there be more consolidation to come over time? Yeah. Will you even get in a couple of years, perhaps, or even sooner? What is T-Mobile going to do? Would they ever consider buying a cable company? Is it possible when this thing gets together at some point that T-Mobile represents, I'm talking years down the road, an exit for them?
But
Charter, you could imagine,
saying is doing very well.
Say again?
As an actual cable company, Charter, you've been saying positive things.
Yeah, I think Charter has been performing okay. The last quarter, at least, was fairly well received. Their growth in wireless. Their ability to adjust in terms of programming so they can actually keep the video business to some extent. All I think are seen as positives. By the way, Chris Winfrey going to be running a company where his largest shareholders are Cox, the Newhouse family, which stays in, and John Malone as well will be a significant owner. Now, we're not talking large percentages, maybe a couple of percent, but Malone obviously a very important partner here for quite some time, given Liberty's huge ownership position over a long period of time. I am told as well, John, I think they may have even said this on the call, John Malone will also be an owner. So,
in conclusion, we have Foot Locker, Dick's, we have this, all a couple days. Foot Locker, very small deal. I'm conscious of that. But someone might have said before, look, can't do it. Two concentration shoes, can't do it this time. Cable, FTC might not want to do it. Just not even hearing any chatter like that now.
No, not on this deal. I mean, I know the market share question on the Foot Locker, what Dick's will have in terms of selling Nike, I don't know, Jim. On this one, and again, it's always an uncertain environment in regulatory, particularly because in the Trump administration, you just don't know what you're going to get. That said, on the merits, it doesn't appear this should be an issue for this deal.
When we come back, a big leadership change over at Novo Nordisk today. Shares are under some pressure on that news. Got details. Take a look at the pre-market. Got Take Two to look at. Kava, Meta, AMAT. Nice upgrade at Caterpillar when we return.
At AT&T Business, we guarantee our best deals on any smartphone with your choice of our best plans. What we can't guarantee, your employees having a similar work style. You hired them. Or your staff, all having the same vibe. I like this style. And your design team being on the same page.
Bold choice.
For 2002.
What AT&T does guarantee, our best deals on any smartphone with your choice of our best plans for any employee. And we mean any.
Double check that. That's pretty good. Yeesh. Not crying, are you? Let's tighten that and...
Ooh. Wait, what was that?
What? No, don't worry about that. Here we go.
Asking the right question can greatly impact your future.
Are you qualified to do this?
What?
Especially when it comes to your finances.
Do you have a question?
Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's why it's gotta be a CFP. Find your CFP professional at letsmakeaplan.org.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Good morning. Welcome to CNBC Plus. Where to?
Countdown to the opening bell. Don't go anywhere.
Morning.
News and analysis as it happens. Market anytime, anywhere with CNBC Plus. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus. It's the special mattress offer you've been waiting for. 2 great mattress brands, 1 low price, just $5.95 at the Rooms to Go Memorial Day mattress sale. Right now, for a limited time only, get this Simply Posturepedic or Beauty Rest mattress in twin, full, queen, or king size. Your choice, just
So, man, are you trading futures now or no?
only $5.95. Plus, check out our other great mattress box at the Rooms to Go Memorial Day mattress sale. Sleep
Google just started last week, but MIA now, so I don't know what happened. I don't know, during regular hours, like something when markets open is when you get the best movement. No. After hours, you want to stay away from trading for futures.
From that squawk on the street, Novo Nordisk announcing that CEO Lars Jorgensen is stepping down from his role, citing some recent
Yeah,
market
I mean, the
challenges.
people that trade after hours are the people in the UK and stuff.
CEO back in 2017, but shares under pressure over the last year, as you know, losing more than half their value. Board chair was on the call moments ago talking about whether or not this took the street by surprise.
We have a clear strategy, and that remains unchanged.
So,
We have a strong product portfolio with lots of potential. We have
you guys see the tick trader thing? 50% off is sick.
And drive the company forward with a long-term perspective. And again, what drove the decision now was a combination of the recent market challenges.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab one next week for sure, but hopefully they'll give us some freebies next month for it. Let's see, when does it expire? Oh, it ends on Monday? That's quick. Dang.
But I've got to tell you, this is one of the great conundrums. Eli Lilly is really a second place. Maybe even you can say like far second. And Dave Bricks has just done everything right. They've got the better shot in terms of 2 inches waist loss versus Novo. They've got the pill that is.
I followed earlier. I took profit, but I came back in. So I'm short at 458 now. So I'm just waiting.
Novo, that chart tells you that they were getting beat back by Eli Lilly. Yeah. And, it's a competition. Remember when Merck was ahead in anti-cholesterol, and then something like Pfizer, Warner, Lambert just crushed it?
Although the market is large enough to support 2 big players, for sure. Novo obviously is added an enormous.
I shouldn't follow. Where did you get in?
But I'm just saying that we don't sing the praise enough. Okay,
it's still good. I'll go back now.
You do. We do. Good.
Yeah, we should have waited for it to open before we got in again. Well, I got in
again. Take a look at
again.
Eli Lilly versus every single pharmaceutical stock. I mean, it's not even it's aligned.
When you come from behind the way they did,
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me very much of when the Bills came from behind. Remember that game, Frank Reich? They're down by 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
He came back late. He said in the halftime, we got him where we want him.
Yes. There gives you a sense just over the last couple of years.
Trust the bot. You gotta increase your stop loss so you follow the bot at least 100 points and size it down.
But there's a tremendous resistance to using a shot, and the so-called persistence, which is the level of when people stop taking it. A shot is stopped, and people give up on a shot much faster.
Yeah, it's not just about sort of the nature of getting a shot versus a pill, but
50 points? How many contract are you in?
if you're going to make it a global market for these drugs.
Okay, yeah, 50 points. I don't know, for NQ is kind of low.
You've got to make it so that it's a routine. It's got to be routine. Like I do this at the American Migraine Foundation. We have these shots you have to take. It's like every 27 days. You always have it. My assistant, Deb Slater, is always just game of big day. I mean, you always forget it anyway. 27 days. If you can't do it in 26, can't do it in 28. If there was a pill, count me in.
I mean, it's gonna be bad because I was talking in the chat earlier saying that there's a lot of NQ squeeze to the upside, and it did. Okay, so guess we just gotta hold on to it.
You never even. I don't know how you did it.
It low.
I'm almost 100% of the days in February. That's horrible.
Me and
That explains why you're so much happier.
I'm stopping it short. It's only one account though, so it's okay. 458. Trying to get the. This is my second time in with the bot.
I grab one of them Nurtex, dissolves in my mouth, and I have a great day. I make it a great day.
Make every day a great day.
Every day is a great day.
We're just happy to be here. We will get Kramer's Mac Action Countdown.
Hey, the KYC. A lot of people have issue with tickets. You could open a ticket and they'll fix it. Yeah. You're not the only one. A lot of people have an issue.
Anything can change the world of work from HR to payroll. ADP designs for the next
Yeah,
anything.
don't get it fixed.
Are you investing in municipal bonds that will fund roads and bridges? Think of Assured Guarantee's bond insurance as your guardrail. Assured Guarantee.
Oh man, United Healthcare is up 3%. It's going down.
We empower those who act. Those who see the correlation between things above and things below.
I think so too. If you look at the 3 minutes, it looks like it's gonna go up.
Every turn.
It is what it is. This account is not a funding, so I don't really care. Oh. If it goes down a little bit, just cut it and just wait.
So I can't do this anymore. And I asked a couple buddies, I said, how do I lose this weight? The guy goes, life ended. Got on the computer immediately, and probably the easiest thing I've ever done. The medication comes in the mail, and it's very easy to use. I've been able to live my normal lifestyle, and I've lost 20 pounds already. I now come home, spend time with my kids, and I've never felt better. Changed my life.
Check your eligibility in minutes at getlifemd.com. The thing about work, it's always changing. But with the right perspective, what seems confusing or just out of reach can suddenly fall into place.
Oh, you can just put the at sign and then type the name in, and it should pop up.
Next Gen. The daily health drink.
Oh shit, we're green.
Rigorously designed.
You got out?
Next Gen is clinically shown to increase healthy gut
I couldn't get out.
by over 10 times.
Now I'm out. Got out green.
On the nutrient gaps. It's one drink for whole body health. The next generation of AG1 is here.
One of my favorite supplements is Cunol turmeric. Turmeric helps with healthy joints
That's a
and
nice tip.
inflammation
That's just
support.
weird.
And Cunol has the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric. Cunol, the brand I trust. We're checking the markets throughout the trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to share insights, information, and all of the details that you need to make money.
Closing bell overtime for Easter and streaming on CNBC Plus.
Take a look at some free market gainers here. Super Micro leading the charge. Another good one for First Solar. S&P, as we said, up 4 straight days, going for 5, and up 3 of the last 4 weeks. The opening bell's coming up in 4.5 minutes.
I'm gonna wait to open before I short again.
My viewers are my bosses. You come to my show and you learn how to do stocks. Mad Money, weeknight 6 Eastern, CNBC. I love the viewer.
Then,
Is everything
dude, she's killing it.
How have I worked it out with Chris long? The learning can be so messy.
Yeah, you could have got out earlier.
You see, we have something that always gets the job done. There's no substitute. It's called job security, baby.
Mr. Johnson, janitorial emergency in the cafeteria.
Duty calls.
There we go.
That's almost like that.
No, he's short. He should be green now. He's just following the bot.
You should dress for $72, which means you also just got a $200 dopamine hit on the 4th day of gray for $72.
All the animals, Dad.
No, kiddo. Just another day. It's a rare thing when someone you've been with for so long finds a way to surprise you.
You got in late though.
It's like discovering E-Trade's easy-to-use platform now comes with expert insights from Morgan Stanley. That help you navigate the markets.
Yeah. There we go.
You shape the future of energy with confidence. From supply and demand to pricing uncertainty, EY understands disruptions energy companies face.
The mission for power
Hey, good
utility
thing we got
companies
out.
is to provide reliable, affordable energy.
energy. We're helping our clients build ecosystems across the entire value chain of energy in the plants, at the pipeline, and
That's a
on the
pump.
grid.
Wow.
Full spectrum of services help
What?
you maximize
Oh no,
operations to
I'm
drive
short somewhere.
performance. EY.
No, all my shorts are hitting. I forgot to cancel the limit. Yeah, I just got out me some money. There we go. I had it short at 505. I'm sorry, 502. So I got out. Two minutes. That's weird. That's a weird candle.
Order submitted.
I'll put
The opening
502
bell
again.
is brought to you by New Bean. Invest like the future is watching.
All right, let's get to a mad dash with Jim McCord. We've got about a minute and a half till we have an opening bell for the final time of the trading week. Caterpillar.
Yes. Now, earlier,
What's your action, man?
I liberated the term contained downside.
See,
That happened to
it's
be
much
from
easier to
UBS's
pronounce.
research about why they went from stealth to whole caterpillar. That you no longer have the potential for a cataclysm for a caterpillar because things might slow down, but they're not going to materially decline. We think the economy is currently experiencing a slow rollover, is UBS language, but I thought it was interesting. You go from a sell to a hold, and I think that's pretty much the temper of the time. Don't panic, don't dump. Now I know that Steve Cohen talked about 45% chance of recession. And Steve Cohen's a very smart guy, but what this says is, look, the 55% is contained, and I agree with this call, although he changed.
There's a lot of squeeze on NQ to upside coming out, so I don't know. It's gonna wait a little bit. Ah, come on, Union H. Yeah. Press the bot, huh?
Digital asset blockchain company Galaxy overdrafts on strong earlier this morning. My good friend Jill Polly, her boy, ran up there to bring weight over
Hey, Mike.
horrendous disease. Let's hope somebody makes a breakthrough. Periodically, you hear a biotech company going after ALS, and you always say, well, you have to play a long game because they have not done well against that illness. Not done well.
Meantime, Jim, we've talked about that cat upgrade. The XLI is knocking on the doors of all-time highs.
This is really an amazing time, isn't it? Now, we have to understand that there is the data center.
Oh, I got 15 minutes, like it's gonna go down.
Is the greatest year of
So
construction
scared of short
we're ever
now.
going to get.
I missed out. That 500 was a good short.
We're going to continue to have to build out the grid because the grid, by the way, just so we know, a lot of people tell me, look, the biggest weakness in our country is that we have not addressed our grid problems. I was speaking yesterday to Tom Jordan,
The good pumps
one of the
again, I'm
largest
gonna short
natural
it.
gas companies, which is, these guys called Coterra. But, the question of how much natural gas we have and how quickly we have to build out the grid, the data centers hogging it, it's just an untold big story, particularly in light of how the shutdown in Spain and the realization that you may want to go as much renewable as you can, but you better back up because a major country shut down. Not talked about enough here, over there. Wow. People all talk about how we have to have a redundant system. And in our country, I think we have to be aware that we can only do so much with renewables. Natural gas is going to be our baseline for sure. For years, years, years.
It's a remarkable story and sort of been backed up in earnings, whether that's been GE Vernova, Jim, or Constellation last few weeks.
Vistra. And let's not forget, there's this whole other group of companies.
307.
Let's put them under the rubric of Carrier and
hit.
Johnson Controls, trying to make things cooler because Jensen, who's going to be speaking Monday night.
Sunday night for us.
Yes. And I just think that you.
Oh yeah, there's news at 10, so 30 minutes coming some data.
GTC are his big speeches. Yeah, they're big speeches, and he usually packs a punch.
I didn't think it's that big, but I
Something
don't know.
exciting
No, I think we're going to be monitoring that on Sunday night for Monday morning in terms of any real news that comes
So
out.
I'm very excited about it because when he does this, it's a learning experience. Jensen, I think, taught the president a great deal in the last.
Are you cool with them opening an R&D center in Shanghai? As the FTA?
I saw that, and first I said, "Oh, I wish it were Singapore." I do think that again. I hope they checked it off with the president first, just because I think the president does not like, as we see with Tim Cook and Apple, really way too little told story about the president really being very dissatisfied with Tim Cook. Really trying to use the loophole to go to India and therefore avoid any big tariff. And I think you have to go to the president and say, listen, I'm thinking of doing this. And I wonder whether Jensen expressed this to the president.
You make it sound like the president's on the board. I mean, these are private companies.
From Chipotle to the board of Teslas. No, I know it doesn't like to the board, but I think we're in a different era where there's the president selling a lot of NVIDIA Blackwell. I think that you become your ally. You got to give them a heads up.
It is interesting. It's been between the Apple India Trump stuff, the journal piece on how the Vision Pro, Jim, hasn't turned out to be the tool people thought a year ago.
Tough.
I've been calling that one. I've been wrong plenty, but
you were so right on that. It's frightening.
I want to get in now. I want to slide down and get in at 4:30.
Unbelievable. I'm going to put it in the HOF floor.
What went wrong there? I mean, what
Too heavy. Too heavy was the first. A belief, but just a classic little anecdotal. I'm on a plane. I'm using it, and when the bar cart comes by, they don't stop me because they think I'm asleep. I mean, there's just the unintended, ridiculous rich person consequences. I put it.
Although there are plenty of people who
How to join to?
they always look
Yeah,
at it.
join at 4:42. I'll get out at 4:30.
Order submitted.
Maybe 10 points something.
They had a great idea for how to use it to
I'm
sell
a-
cars.
Order canceled.
I don't know why.
Right, you kept thinking was going to have use to the enterprise.
Because they were using it so
Order
much
submitted.
Gonna size up a little bit more.
But on the other side, that's Ray-Bans are a
Oh
success.
my God, I love them so much. But I bought a pair for my wife that said on Amazon that they were loaded with Italian and French and German, and we put them on, and they did not have those languages when I was in the Low Countries. So it's, I wish they get rid of that bait and switch. That said, you can look at it. It says, tell me what I'm looking at. And we were looking at exotic plants, and it knew every one of them. Every one.
Today, the news, of course, is the journal delaying Behemoth, their LLM, probably until the fall. I'm not sure how important you think that is.
That was kind of important. One of the journals I get that just does tech was sent with that, led with that, and said that was amazingly important. So I don't know.
There's AMAT too, which wasn't bad, Jim, but revenue shy, down, up 7. They guide Q3 in line.
Yeah. Now AMAT, people don't realize, but AMAT is China's is huge for AMAT. Okay, they're doing 10 billion there. It's a huge chunk. It's actually right now 25%. But there was rebellion on the conference call, and I felt badly because I happen to think these guys. I don't know if you know Gary Dickerson. You know Gary. He's a chick, okay? But they, Stacy Rascott, off and on our network, kind of like a Dan Ives kind of doppelganger. And he said this in the conference call. He goes, you say that you return to sequential growth in Q3, but this is not sequential growth.
I think so.
Wait, we do. What was the answer?
Well, I said, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it was Bryce Hill, the senior vice president, answered. The CFO answered it, but I was taken aback by it because it was kind of like not unlike John Book in Witness. Like you said, remember when she said be safe in Philadelphia? Well, I was wrong. This was I thought it was kind of not offensive, but it's like Gary.
I had a good short too. I need to just keep some runners. I need to learn to do that. I did it last night too.
Are you kidding me? I mean, you gave us a flight pad, and it turned out you were going to Newark.
Right. Jim Cava, Brett Schulman
Yeah.
on Squawk this morning. Comps up 10-8. That's pretty good in this environment to do a 10
I thought that was great. Brent, the stock's
Are you short?
I like that stock. A lot of people feel that it's the next, obviously, Chipotle and David. I don't know if you know Mediterranean
I
food
think
is
they're
considered
short.
good for you until they stop saying it's good for you. Yes. Right. Remember when X were bad and then they told you they were good?
Yeah, about got the 50 points.
Follow your gut. We have good instincts.
Two glasses of wine. Remember that was good? I doubled down. I continue to what?
Oh yeah.
I continue to believe it.
Oh, that's the expert, right? The one you won. Dude, make that to funding. You can just run it up.
Constellation.
I think last year my buddy ran up, I think 40,000 on one of them.
Now we're talking about the beverage company, not the utility company.
Constellation, the utilities have a killer play.
I think that's his only win, and he's taking L's for like the whole year.
I have to tell you, next week is when that deal, when you see what Richard Fairbanks.
You just get lucky and you can make a lot on that one.
Network, because they're going to be up one in a deal that may never close if President Biden had continued President Biden, which we're now beginning to get a couple of excerpts of books that I think are just concerning, but don't belong on our show.
Man, Crackhead is killing it this morning.
Yeah. Are you talking about the book by a guy who works for another
Yeah,
network?
yeah, Rena got paid. Are you on day 5? Yeah. So Monday, let me know and shoot me the email, and I'll move it to my guy and speed it up. They're gonna pay.
These two stocks, yeah. It's stunning.
If you're a hedge fund and you're not long planter,
I'm short again.
I mean, you should just hang it up.
I'm in at 440 too.
I know. Can you, by the way, the guy who's called a planter, maybe the greatest short seller of our time. And I'm not going against.
It's been a heck of a week for coin.
Yeah.
We had the S&P inclusion.
Signed up on my
We had the
GTT.
attack.
Order
Now we
canceled.
had the
And I'm
SEC
out.
probe. And then we had the response to the SEC probe. Jim, up 3 today.
Well, all I can tell you is
Order
this.
submitted.
I saw, I mean, I don't know, it might have been like a rare sighting, kind of like a 3 days in a condor or 6 days, depending on the book. I saw United.
Order submitted.
It was up. It was up. UNH was up. Now, can I just say, I want to clear, UNH didn't say, listen, we've not been contacted. The experience that I've had with the Justice Department is the Justice Department does not say, hey guys, we're gunning for you. They're not telling you. No. So the fact that they weren't told at United Health doesn't mean that there's nothing going on. No. You need to have the Justice Department say, we are not investigating them. And they do not do that. They do not do that.
They can request a lot of documents, can't they? They can ask for a lot of stuff. Well, you're aware of that.
Absolutely. It may not mean. Look, I looked at the conjunctive, the way the journal put it. If you read, at Bloomberg, Reuters, they all put it the same way, which is, listen, they're investigating, and that's true. It does not say that they're going to indict them. Right. But the problem is that if this is a government program, that if you, David, Medicare fraud, not great if you're in the Medicare business.
So how do you? But you got. Do you brave this? Do you get in there saying, all right, or do you just?
Yeah, it's gonna lose 400.
I made it NR, not rated.
Not rated.
Yeah,
You're taking it off.
I went in on test, which is kind of like DNR. You know DNR?
Yes, yeah, I'm aware of that.
Well, this is like NR.
Right. Okay. So you're not rating UNH any longer.
No, it's in the not rated category.
Got it. Keeping an eye on shares of Charter, obviously, given the big deal. It's the only public side of this, of course, as we indicated earlier. $34.5 billion is the enterprise value, but that includes $12 billion plus in debt, $21.9 billion in equity. Much of that made up in Charter shares. All of this will close. That is the acquisition of Cox. Not till the middle of next year, let's call it, most likely. You can see a positive response from investors, modestly positive response. The call, I believe, has concluded, and Chris Winfrey, the aggressive CEO of Charter, talking about
You were muted the whole time.
relationships and experience integrating assets over the years that they've done, and talked about no better economic way for them to have programming delivered.
I think you need to make 4,000, right? On the expert. Yeah.
Seamless entertainment. Remember, they have signed up all these deals with the streamers where.
Yeah, I have one. I'm just protecting it because I took a payout, but now I'm like, about to blow it, so I'm just going really
Disney
small.
and on from Charter, trying to keep you in the video bundle essentially, and perhaps with some success. Though it continues to the last quarter, they continue to lose video subs, but not quite at the rate of some of their competitors.
That's an industry that uniquely needs the so-called agentic.
I hope we pump again so I can be short.
Yeah, call center. I think that they can probably save a huge amount of money. Call centers are still ground zero for the agentic and people saving a lot of money.
They are. There is also a belief if you're a Cox customer, at least what I heard from Winfrey on the call as well, sort of migrating their pricing structure positively for Cox customers in the sense of we can lower your bill. We'll see, but certainly a possibility there. So
again,
it's
continue to say that the takeaway here is that the door is now open for deals, and that therefore you got to start buying. Even though Goldman was not a consequential figure,
right? Wait, what was it?
Goldman. My Chuck Russell, Goldman's not consequential.
No, plenty of advisors here, as you dictated, as you said earlier, the boutique from Lion Street, Wells Fargo on the other side, Citi.
Was there anything the fact that Wells was in that, which is Charlie Sharp trying to make?
Yeah, well, they've got they had a long relationship. There was a banker that they had who had a relationship with Cox, who would move from Citi over to Wells, so they were potentially a beneficiary as well in that deal. I did want to point out Altice, tiny market cap, enormous amount of debt. When you use the 6.44 multiple they're using here on the Charter deal, and remember I've explained, they're basically saying Charter gets a 6.44 enterprise value over adjusted EBITDA multiple. That's what we're going to pay for Cox. But when you use that there, the bonds, it's maybe the bonds are priced a little aggressively, and the stock. This is like it's like a little coupon. There's not much left there in terms of equity value at Altice.
Return to get away 10? Okay.
Debt load,
Which is after the news.
Remember that too? One of our last big cable deals.
David, it went that long, and he did not mention another cable company that he's deeply involved with.
The best one?
Yeah, the best. Yeah, the best.
The best.
Yes. We are the Eagles play.
I'm already all about Versant, and so I don't even really think about the relationship with our long-time parent company. And so Versant is not a cable company. It is just a great company.
Great company.
Yeah, you Fandango.
Speaking of media, Jim, Netflix all-time highs again.
Oh, it's
bunch of price target increases. The ad sheet this week said that the ad tier subs are spending about 41 hours a month, which she says is about as much time as you spend eating and drinking. And then Sundar Pichai on this podcast this week talking about the biggest regret that they have at Google in terms of things they didn't buy. Take a listen.
Unique as a company that way. A lot of small regrets. By nature, I tend to look forward and I learn from mistakes we make. But look, there are acquisitions.
I should cancel my order then. Yeah. I'm gonna cancel them.
Just give me one name.
Yeah.
Trouble. Maybe Netflix, right? Like we debated Netflix.
We should move it up to 500 and short.
So you go through.
Interesting. Right. Well, yeah, I remember I proposed Netflix. That Tim Cook buy Netflix. I mean, the issue with Netflix is you need a seller.
Yeah, you have to have a willing seller. They've been right not to, and any long-term shareholders there have been a beneficiary of their decision not to. By the way, it is worth pointing out over $500 billion market value now at Netflix as that continues to surge higher.
But they always talk about how there's so much more room because there's a clock of your day, and there's still time left in your day. Now they're starting to cut into how long it takes to eat. Maybe eventually they'll cut into
Well, Reed always said biggest competitor was sleep.
Yeah,
that was his take for years.
God,
what a long way they've come from discs in the mail.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had a vision just incredible.
Who's that?
I mean, they were the first with an album which said, if you like this, then you.
Oh, you sound different. You got a new mic?
They've always been, their interface.
No, it's a lot better now.
It is something to behold. But yeah, that's sort of a new milestone. $500 billion market value.
And the upfront, they dazzled at the upfront. I mean, what don't they dazzle at? I don't know.
Sports right now, they haven't dazzled because they haven't done much. That's the question.
And by the
doing sports? How big will they get in sports at Netflix as they dabble?
We have to go. We do? Yes, we have to go.
That's it.
Never said that.
59.20 as we're holding 5,900 pretty easily here. Bonds have come off the highs yesterday, down across the curve. 10-year, remember, the 30-year actually yesterday was a 5, today 4.86. We'll get you, Mission, in a few moments, although a lot of the survey data is getting stale very quickly. Stay with us.
Guess we're gonna wait. I'm just gonna do one of the giveaway.
Global leader in fixed income.
Security so fast. The agents applaud. Your travel itineraries are so well written.
I need to post this so people know.
And you have access to lounges that exist. That's why you rent with Nash, where you can skip the counter. It's travel, it's the competition. Except that it is.
For plant-based, healthy blood pressure support, there's one brand that stands above the rest. It's Super Meats by Human, the #1 doctor,
Later, buddy.
pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended B brand for heart health support. Find out how to get a free month with your first order at livehuman.com.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Custom Ink helps us motivate our students to custom gear. We love how Custom Ink takes care of everything we need, so we focus on the kids.
We make it easy to wow all your groups with high-quality custom apparel, accessories, and promo products, all backed by our guarantee at customink.com.
Don't buy another stock before reading this book, because when you see the returns you could be making on options versus stocks, you'll realize that in today's
Order filled. Order filled.
What the hell? Ah, I forgot to fucking cancel.
option strategies you'll learn
Oh,
in our new book.
let me get out. There we go.
Order filled.
Get out.
And today we'll give you a copy for free. Get your free copy while they last at itsnotanoption.com. Itsnotanoption.com.
University of Maryland Global Campus believes in its students and what they can offer the world. You get credit for the experience. I didn't have to start at the bottom. I had life experience and I had actual job experience that translated to coursework and helped cut down the cost of school. UMGC honored the level of effort that I put into myself and helped me become a highly attractive candidate in the job market. Being able to buy a home is part of the American dream.
Hello.
And I couldn't be prouder.
Franklin Templeton ETFs. With over 70 ETFs, we have solutions for every market, helping advisors build the portfolios of the future today. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
First on CNBC, Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic. Should the Fed have a patient policy stance? His outlook for the economy and rate cuts. Stay ahead of the market. Squawk Box, Monday 6 a.m. Eastern, and streaming on CNBC Plus.
A lot of questions and concerns about the consumer these last few months, but you know, we just hit an all-time high. MasterCard, you can see 10-year chart, actually the 20-year chart, Jim, also is a thing of beauty.
Such a good CEO, man of the world, really understands things, taking share. Wow, congratulations.
Visa just a couple bucks behind its own all-time
Yeah,
high.
they're going
as well. But for the time being, Dow's down 34. We'll get stopped trading with Jim in a minute.
At AT&T Business, we confidently guarantee our network. What we can't guarantee, enough hours in a workday. Or your projects, always going as planned.
3 days, max.
Well, more like 3 days. You shop on time, so
Order forbidden.
AT&T Business, you can get the connectivity you depend on, or we'll make it right.
Catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
I'm Darren, and this is my TimberTech story. We had one here before. The maintenance, trying to look after it's just impossible, Darren. You can't do it. On TimberTech, it's maintenance free. The advanced PVC from the naked eye, it looks as if it's real wood. This should be anything better. We have historically got big hurricanes here. We have no worries about the decking out here at all because it's so strong. Playing golf for a living, but traveling all the time. Knowing that we have TimberTech, that's one less thing we've got to worry about. TimberTech is everything wood should be.
PGIM, finding opportunity in fixed income today helps secure tomorrow. Our time-tested fixed income suite, backed by over 145 years of risk experience, helps investors meet their goals. PGIM Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
Don't miss a members-only event.
You want to trade? We may not be for you. You want to invest? Come to the right place.
Join the CNBC Investing Club to access Jim's monthly meeting. Go to cnbc.com/monthly meeting.
Don't worry, DashPass saves you money on DoorDash, so you can skip the trip to the grocery store and stay right where you need to be.
Popcorn? I'm good. Want to go get dinner?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll order.
Yeah,
You save big on orders. You can afford to give yourself a pass.
What do we think?
DashPass by DoorDash. Your door to more savings.
Well, we don't second chances in March. It's win or go home. I knew that I was gonna have to step up. My teammates look to me to be a leader.
Want to keep an eye on this Cadence Design. I had them on this week. Now, this is an $87 billion company, and Andrew Devkin is doing a fantastic job. They are not in the Intel stack. They have pretty much everybody else in NVIDIA, but the previous CEO, Lip-Bu, is the CEO of Intel. And I think they're going to get some Intel business, and I really want to emphasize the Cadence. While it's going up a lot, when Lip-Bu Tan really kind of takes over at Intel, he's in there now, but you're going to see a big piece of business go Cadence way. So that's not done. I like that stock very much.
Kind of a running theme. We talked to Chuck Robbins yesterday, but people point out between Cisco and Deere and Walmart, those earnings have been pretty reassuring.
I think they've been extraordinary. They act as if, look, nothing's changed, and yet we all know
that's
but we're
that's
talking about really
Abe.
excellent companies that know how to deal with things. Deere company, I don't know why people thought Deere was weak yesterday. Deere is doing magnificently. They're also another way to change your trade deficit with us.
Yes.
This is Boeing.
Yes. That carries a lot of water pretty quickly.
Yes, it does.
Just a few of those orders. How about tonight?
Okay, so one of my favorite companies is Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros won tonight, and they have been a remarkable stock.
What's up?
And John Banner, Republic Service waste stocks have done very well too. So these
You
are
got your
two
money?
maybe a little less known companies. Dutch Bros is, I think, destined to be one of the great chains of our time. I'm not kidding.
Think about give the big guys.
You mean like every day you can get a payout?
They are, because the service is great. And
That's nice. Good job, dude.
Energy. David, I'm going to take you one of those. And we'll start it on Friday. We'll be up Monday. Great. We'll come right to work. Yeah, up with you. There's no reason to sleep when you've been to Dutch Bros.
Have a good weekend.
Hope you get a little sleep this weekend, though. Hope you do.
I got to go sign bottles up in Norwood.
Yes.
I don't want to work my way, but for Mezcal,
The old bottle signing.
is right. Mezcal is not something that you want to drink and do the show. Doesn't work like that.
Sure, we'll see you tonight and this weekend. Mad Money, 6 p.m. Eastern. When we come back, University of Michigan consumer confidence as the market digests some of these gains. S&P's up 11.
But you still gotta wait for 2 weeks to get your payout, right?
Spacious. Loving the Fathom Blue. What are you going to use it for?
Thwarting international terrorism saving the world. That's
Groceries.
Sorry, we saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and we
I have a short of 500, so hopefully we hit. Alright. 15 minutes still looks bad, so still think we're going down.
Blood pressure support. There's one brand that stands above the rest.
Yeah, Chronos is new. I haven't touched them yet. So hhopefully keep us updated.
Find out how to get a free month with your first order at
withhumid.com.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things just right. That's why I love Redfin's home recommendations. They know what I
The
want
CEO is pretty
before I
cool.
do. A home that's just right.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Looks like your hiring's making a lot of people happy.
ZipRecruiter's new tool, Zip Intro, is a game changer. It saved me so many steps in the hiring process. Look, I just pick a time and it handles everything, from finding great candidates to setting up interviews.
So, no more back and forth.
Right. I can just choose from this list and meet with them as soon as tomorrow. Oh, wow. Another dignified portrait of me.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free. Only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
It's a smart move to get a second opinion. You do it when you're looking for a contractor. You definitely do it with medical advice. So why not with your stock market investments? We can help you see opportunities you may be missing. At Henyon & Walsh, it only takes a second to schedule your free second opinion. So what's there to lose? Speak to Henyon & Walsh, the second opinion people.
I'm Tony Steen, digital strategist at AmericanEagle.com. After Kansas City Stakes experienced declining traffic and conversion rates, they came to us primed for online growth. We solve digital challenges like this all the time. By leveraging an omni-channel digital marketing strategy, KansasCityStakes.com attracted new customers and significantly increased ROI. For complete website and digital marketing solutions, go to AmericanEagle.com.
In 1 minute. Ooh, what a dump.
The market is open.
Ninja Trade is frozen.
Products and maybe change prices on other products that
Yeah.
might not have a tariff applied to them.
Squawk on the Street. I'm Sarah Ivan with Carl Quintanilla.
I guess that'd be much.
Stock Exchange. Stocks are up again today, just a little bit, but we're adding to some significant gains for the week right now. S&P up 4.75% for the week. Nasdaq up 6.75%. What's strong today? Well, healthcare's coming back. Communication services and consumer staples all at the top of the list. Information technology is lagging a bit today. That's thanks in part to Applied Materials, which is down 7% off earnings. Treasuries, we've seen this stabilization. We're talking about high yields earlier in the week.
Yeah, those
well,
news,
they're moving a little bit lower.
what was
Got
it?
it yesterday, got it today. 10-year yield
Consumer
4.4%.
sentiment.
So it's come down a little bit. 2-year yield below 4%. Ahead this hour, JP Morgan's David Kelly with us to talk about the standout week for the Bulls and the rally of from here. Plus, Bank of America.
Oh, you didn't get out?
Francisco launch on how optimism around a deal with Iran will impact the oil market, which has been under a lot of selling pressure lately, Carl.
One of the last data points of the
This
week.
shit
Let's get
dropped.
University of Michigan with Rick Santelli. Hey, Rick.
Hi, Carl. These are some wild numbers here. University of Michigan Senate made preliminary read. And do keep in mind that this data series goes back to 1946 in some form. And in 2024, they did change the way they collect the data. They went from cell phone based to web based. And many believe that these changes ought to be noted. So the number 50.8, well below expectations at 53 and change. And all of the numbers are sequentially lower. Our last look at 52.2
So the data's good?
comes in at 50.8. 50.8. And that would be the second lowest reading going back to 1952. So that comps to 50.0, which was June of 22.
Yeah, it looks bad.
I have a database
But I
that
think
goes
Q's
all
going
the way
back up.
52 on this headline number. There's nothing smaller than 50.50, which was June of 22, just to give you a feel for it. Current condition, 57.6, well below the 60-ish we were expecting, and 57.6 would be the weakest going back to June of 22. Same thing. Now, if we look at the expectations, this is really, really wild here. 46.5, expecting a number that was 48.5 in the rearview mirror. 47.3, like I said, sequentially lower across the board. 46.5 comps to, March of 1980 when it was a whisker above 44. Now, the real wild numbers, 7.3% on one-year inflation, 7.3%. That equals Nova of 81. To find a higher number, you're in April of 81. And 5 to 10-year inflation, 4.6. 4.6. Now, to find a higher number, do you go back to Jan of 91, it equals 4.6. 4.7 would be September of 1990. And as I said, draw your own conclusions, whether some of these surveys have changed based on how they're conducted, or University of Michigan just really is more aggressive in some of their survey samples. These are really extravagantly wild numbers. Sarah, back to you.
I just want to add a little more color. Thank you, Rick. So the survey was done between April 22nd and May 13th. So this was full-on reaction. Remember when the markets were very volatile, reacting to Liberation Day. And University of Michigan does note that the next update, which they have on May 12th, the final release, which the May 12th pause on China and on some of the tariffs, that will be in that data. It's not in this data. So that
Let's do the PayPal giveaway.
such a dip in consumer sentiment here and such an increase in inflation expectations. Carl, I'll just also mention, this is always very politically tinged. The Republicans have had more of an upbeat outlook than Democrats, but in this report, they do note a 7% decline among Republicans in sentiment, and 60% of consumers mentioned tariffs as a reason for lower sentiment.
Right. We're really in a period now where it's about the sample date, whether it's UMich or Philly or Empire, all these sentiment gauges, they collect data over different weeks. And that was all through the month of April. So not sure how much the market takes this to heart.
It's Friday. It's going to be
Because think about
boring.
how much sentiment has recovered even in the market. We're what, 4% on the S&P above where we were before Liberation Day. So it's amazing what price action can do for sentiment. I would also just note in terms of
Hey,
what they do, not what they say. This
Dan?
is the sentiment reading. This is the soft data that everybody's been worried about, where consumers are really downbeat
On
and
that
depressed.
section over there.
The hard data, it doesn't tell that story quite yet. I mean, retail sales were okay. They held up in the last month. And then we got some commentary. I don't know if you guys saw Kava still comping double digits with high traffic. They must be doing something right because, what the CFO said on the consumers, nothing in our data suggests that our consumer is challenged. We have positive traffic across all geographies, all income strata, all formats, and all day parts. And I thought Take-Two was notable as well, the video game company. Maybe video games are more recession-proof these days, but the CFO says recurring consumer spending growth was phenomenal. And even EMAC, which had some weakness and is down 7%, we have not seen significant changes in market demand. So the caveat on this sentiment data is, so far, it's just sentiment data.
Yeah, we were just talking with Jim about MasterCard all-time high. The only thing, I think, JP Morgan looked at retail sales this week and said maybe you're beginning to see some payback from front running.
For sure.
Their estimate is that real good spending probably dipped 0.5%.
Right. I mean, you saw that in places like cars,
Yeah.
where people were front running ahead of the tariffs and they were buying a lot of cars, and then so we weren't going to see as much car buying the following month. Look, it's going to be impossible to tell because a lot of these retailers have stocked up on inventories. They front run it too, and so until the inventories come down, where they really have to raise prices. Remember, Walmart just this week said that it's going to start raising prices. We just don't know how that's going to impact the consumer. The other good thing, David, of the week, which I think is worth mentioning, is that no real alarm bells in the inflation data yet. CPI, PPI, and then this morning import prices as well comes in at 0.1%. It was a little bit more than expected, but still not so problematic. If you take all the inflation data and add that up, it's not, the best thing you can say is that it's not like we're coming from a point where inflation was starting to flare up again going into the tariffs, which was a little bit of a concern this year. So for the Fed, I mean, there's still going to be wait and see. Let's see how the tariffs impact.
Mugo, you're back.
Some pretty good news on all the inflation front and the consumer front this week, aside
Mugo.
from the sentiment stuff.
Yeah, aside from sentiment, the difference,
what's up,
obviously,
Mountain?
as you say, in terms of what reality is, at least in the marketplace, versus what we're getting on sentiment. The S&P is, you can see it right there, up a bit, looking to add to a nice winning streak. It would be 5 days in a row, in fact, if we close higher. The major
We'll do another one once I pay out these other two guys
third
first.
positive week of the last 4. Joining us now is JP Morgan Asset Management Global Strategist David Kelly. David, good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
I don't know, I know you've been walking around, but we just got the sentiment data, very, very weak. Does it matter?
Not actually for consumers. First of all, I'd be a little careful about this number. They only poll about 250 to 300 people, which is way too low for a survey in the first half of the month. So the survey sample is size really small. In addition, they made a change to that survey last year, moving from telephone interviews to online interviews, which we think cost them 6 points. So it's not quite as bad as it looks. I mean, it is. But having said that, look, consumers are resilient. But there comes a point where you squeeze them enough in terms of tariffs, reflecting on the student loans again, and then just the general worry that and of course the cutbacks to the government sector. All these things I think are beginning to weigh on consumers. So I think it is slowing the economy down. Still not willing to say recession.
Right.
The really key question here is not consumer behavior; it's business behavior. Because businesses seem to be so reluctant to lay people off. They had such a hard time hiring people the last few years that until they see the whites of the eyes in recession, they don't want to lay people off. And actually, when you look at retailers, until they see the whites of the eyes of recession or the tariffs, they don't really want to push up these prices. They'd rather say, well, look, on the current stock, this is what it cost us. This is our markup. Here we are. Now, the new stuff that comes in the ports, that's going to be more expensive for us, so we're going to mark that up. But I think they're also playing wait and see. So everybody's waiting to see what these tariffs really do to the economy.
Looking at JP Morgan's analysis of retail sales, we just mentioned it, but if in fact they're eating some of the tariffs through their margins, your argument is that's not good for the economy either.
No, I mean, the whole and the uncertainty. I mean, there's this uncertainty tax which is being levied by Washington, which is bigger than all the other taxes combined. I mean, you have to, in business, small business, big business, you have to make decisions. And what happens is everybody freezes.
Yeah, you don't have PayPal. I have to pick another winner, dude. Sorry.
If you look at the job openings labor turnover report, we hire 65 million people per year in this country. 62 million people lose a job, but 65 million people get hired. That's 250,000 hires per day. If you just hold off a little bit, maybe let's just put a pause. We're not going to approve this hire. We just do that a little bit. It can really slow the economy.
We're not seeing signs of it yet, are we?
No, we're not. At the moment, I'd have to say, the tariff pullback and also this big tax bill, which is going to put stimulus into 2026 and a little stimulus in 2025. That takes us from more than likely going to have a recession to less than likely going to have a recession this year. So I think the economy may be resilient enough to avoid recession, but it's going to be slow growth for a while.
Although one caveat you guys threw out there this week was that
sucks,
there's a
man.
chance those things
Sorry,
don't go
dude.
as well as the regulatory and the fiscal stuff.
Oh well, yes. I mean, first of all, it's going to be a difficult thing getting this whole bill through Congress. But the other part of it is, longer term, we're pushing up the deficit again. We're going to end up in 4 years' time with a deficit close to 7% of GDP. It's 6% of GDP right now. It's going in the wrong direction. And
because it's slower growth.
Well, hard to get slow growth, but guess what? We've also had another dose of fiscal fudge. We've got 4 years of tax cuts. It's paid for 10 years of future spending cuts, and we see this all the time.
And we hear warnings about this all the time, but is there really any evidence, David, that it's going to stand in the way of an equity market rally or even a bond market rally? Even when we had these higher yields, we were wondering, is the deficit front and center again? But guess what? Then we see buying reemerge.
The bond market maybe, because we're going to have to spend $2 trillion per year financing. We're going to have to find $2 trillion per year just to finance this deficit, going up to $3 trillion. And we also have this ongoing tariff issue. We're going to be close to full employment. We've got less available workers. All these things say to me that inflation's not going to collapse. If the economy doesn't collapse and inflation doesn't collapse, the government's borrowing all this money.
I'm busy doing the YouTube thing. Keeps me from over trading, so I'm okay with that.
I think it's all an issue for
Are you
US
trading?
equities, US fixed income. 60-40 portfolio has done so well for so long.
Yeah, it's still the same area.
Calm their expectations here. Diversify. International still makes a lot of sense. Value stocks still make a lot of sense. There are plenty of things to do, but don't just bet on large cap growth stocks with a little bit bonds added in and expect to get double-digit returns per year, because I just don't think that's correct.
And you don't think the tolerance for pain out of retail traders might make that a difficult thesis?
I swear it might be Big E.
They never give up the ghost in April.
We've been taught so many times to buy the dip. But at some stage, earnings matter, and even those confidence numbers. I mean, they may feed. As I say, consumers are resilient, but investors might get a little nervous.
David, thank you.
Anytime.
All right, nice to see you.
We are just a little over 30 minutes here into the trading session. Three big movers we are watching this hour. Super Micro leading the S&P 500 this morning, now up nearly 50%.
I do have a short at
just
480
this week.
if we go
The
back
company
up.
announcing a strategic partnership with DataVault in Saudi Arabia on AI infrastructure earlier. Watch Charter higher on news it plans to merge with Cox Communications, a deal that would combine two of the nation's largest cable companies. New details from
Oh,
David
you can't see a
later
short?
this hour. And then Novo Nordisk CEO stepping down, citing recent market challenges. Shares have been hit. They've fallen more than 25% since January. Our Angelica Peebles joins us now with that story. It's especially stark, Angelica, if you look at
I
Novo
hit
next
earlier.
to competitor.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
right,
good.
Sarah. Lars Bjorberg Jorgensen is out as CEO of Novo Nordisk, and the company is citing recent market challenges, a slumping stock price, and interestingly, the desire from its majority shareholder, the Novo Nordisk Foundation. On one hand, it's not terribly surprising. Like
Yo,
you said,
check
the
your
stock is down. It's actually down more
Twitter.
than 50%
Art.
from the record high that it hit just last June. And Novo created the market for GLP-1 weight loss drugs, but Wegovy is falling behind Lilly's Zepbound, and Zepbound
Then we
now
can
has
do
almost
Chronos next.
62% of market share, even though it was 2 years behind Wegovy. And Novo's had a number of disappointments in the clinic, and they really don't have a great answer to Lilly's forthcoming obesity pill. But on the other hand, the shakeup seems quite sudden. Novo reported Q1 earnings just last week, and analysts this morning on a conference call pressed Novo's board chairman Helga Lund about why Novo, a company known for its patience, would oust its CEO less than a year into the stock slump, and what this means for Novo's strategy from here. And Lund kept saying over and over that Novo has a
Let me see
clear
which Chronos
strategy
is
and
it.
that remains
50K?
unchanged despite this
Yes,
shakeup.
50K.
But clearly, you should expect some change. The chair of the Novo Nordisk Foundation, and actually its former CEO, the CEO of Novo Nordisk, Lars Rebin Sorensen, he's
Free
joining the
activation,
company's
so it's
board.
pretty
The
good. Really good,
foundation,
actually.
which owns about 77% of the voting shares, can have more oversight of the drug maker. Well, they do own the brand Ozempic, which is still a strong branding, at least. Thank you, Angelica Peebles. Here's a roadmap for you for the rest of the hour. New data on the home front as shelter inflation and higher mortgage rates weigh on buyers. We're going to discuss where the opportunities are right now in real estate.
Plus, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway disclosing its latest moves in the stock market. That includes a secret stake in a mystery name.
And Bank of America's Francisco Blanch is with us. We'll talk some oil and how a would-be Iranian deal.
Oh, no,
might
I do
impact
have your
that
PayPal
market.
already.
Big show still ahead as we've got 59.21, highest level since the beginning of March.
Not
Stay with
you.
us.
Get out of here.
Access to the growing opportunity in private markets, empowering advisors with solutions to build the portfolios of the future today. Alternatives by Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
Some people like doing things the hard way, like doing their finances with a spreadsheet instead of using Quicken. Quicken pulls all your financial info together in one place and updates
You know who that is, right?
How easy is that?
Jake was the guy that was in here, and his buddy got into it with another guy that was in here from a different prop firm about begging for freebie with the other guy, and they dog booted all of them.
The average dog lives to be 10. The farmer's dog, I don't think that's long enough. That's why we're doing some personalized portions.
No, he's a good guy. It's his buddy that was causing the drama. That PayPal stuff is done. Yeah, it's choppy as hell.
And right now during the Memorial Day sale,
I picked the first Chronos.
starting at $199 functional box, lofts, and room packages too, like this and this on sale. Plus, don't miss our exclusive brands like Disney Princess and Star Wars. Shop today, save today, and get fast delivery and expert setup. Rooms to Go Kids, the only furniture store just for kids.
As a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, Nick feels financially at ease, which means he can worry about other things, like crossing this river.
I gotta get the code from the CEO
Did he
first.
bring extra socks? Are there salmon in the river? Are salmon aggressive? Nick has a lot of things to worry about, but But as a member of Navy Federal, his finances aren't one of them. Become a member today. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission.
Yo, check your DM, Chris.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. New data on housing this morning as well. It's been a data dump few days. April building permits coming in a little bit lighter than expected, while housing starts did meet expectations. This after, remember, homebuilder sentiment yesterday fell this week to its lowest level in years. Joining us to talk about what's going on in the housing market is John Lovallo, UBS Homebuilders Building Products Analyst, and Logan Motashami, Housing Wire Lead Analyst. It's good to have both of you here. Just Logan, big picture, what's the story right now?
Builders need lower mortgage rates. Active completed units are back to historical high levels. Traditionally, that's typically the end of the cycle for them. As supply increases and margin pressures, they are not in a mood to start building a lot more homes. And the Builders Confidence Index is 4 points away from the all-time low we saw in COVID.
And yet, John, you still like these names, even though sentiment is souring and activity has
Are
been
you
so
going
sluggish.
long?
Why?
Look, I think
Yeah, it looks good. Let me see the 15 minutes. 3 minutes looks good. Yeah. I might go, well, 15 minutes still looks like it's gonna go down.
Is still very strong. The underlying
I'll go long with you though. I'll do 3.
Order filled. Surveys on the street.
I'm in at 454.
Buy a home within the next 12 months. That compares
Orders
to the
submitted.
long-term average of 30% and the pre-COVID average of 25%. The intent to buy and the desire to buy is there. We just need affordability to get in a better place. Now, the home builders are doing the right thing, and they're buying down mortgage rates and
I'll be
helping
doing
along the
6
planning.
points.
So what we need to happen is things to sort of settle politically.
Yeah.
People, consumer
For
confidence, we
now.
saw the numbers today. That's to stabilize to some extent. And then you know what? I think we're going to be in a very good position for the builders
Aren't
to do well.
prices finally coming down though?
Prices are pretty sticky. There's certain markets where we're seeing some adjustments. Inventory is up in certain markets. But you know what? I think that the builders, again, are executing properly, doing the right things, and that inventory will get worked down. And as we move through the end of this year and into next year, we're going to be in a really good spot for the builders and the stocks.
Logan, how low does the average mortgage rate need to be before buyers can hold their nose and spend? Does it still need to be a 5 handle?
No, you know, when mortgage rates get now near to 6%,
Congrats to those winners.
sentiment improves. So the 10-year yield going lower, mortgage rates going lower, builders can sell product. Except near 7% or above, it doesn't work that well for them. Again, margin pressure here, but if the 10-year yield and mortgage rates go just towards 6%, new home sales can grow, existing home sales can grow. Right now,
Yeah,
that's
my
the
long
best
is
we
red.
can have because monetary policy is not very pro-housing right now, but you don't need 3, 4, 5.
What do we have
just
next
getting
that
down
we
to
can give
6%
out?
and holding that for some time can make it work.
You want to do Bonox or you want to do TPT?
John, was inventory, right? That
Let's
was
do.
what was keeping prices and yes,
I want to save that
rates,
for
of course,
last. Let's do some Bonox. We got
happening there?
4
You
of
said
them.
that home builders are holding back a little now.
A little bit. I mean, inventory is actually not in a bad spot outside of
I
certain.
think that's how you pronounce it, right?
The I-4 corridor in Florida. Think about Austin. Think about Phoenix. But all those markets are starting to get a little better. I agree with Logan. I think the builders have been buying down rates to sort of between 5 and 5.5%. That's been a pretty good spot to get demand moving. And I think that as we sort of move through the year, we're going to be in a spot where I think buyers are going to come back to the market. Keep in mind, this sentiment index that came out from the home builders, that's really private builders, smaller builders. They don't have the balance sheets or the access to financing that the publics do. So if you were to survey the publics, I think they would feel a little bit better.
Are you neutral on all the building products and materials because of tariffs?
Not neutral across the group.
I have a
Certainly
stop
there's
at
opportunity. I think tariffs, it certainly presents a
4:15.
risk,
It
but
might
also
hit.
existing home sales at GFC trough levels, and that's the lock-in effect because rates did move up so quickly. The prevailing mortgage rate out there today is 4% versus the headline rate at 7%. People don't want to move. That makes it hard to do repair and remodel jobs.
There's the material cost, Logan. And sometimes if you talk to, for example, a lot of quick service restaurants, the issue of immigration and deportation and labor availability, some argue is even more important. How does that weigh versus materials and housing?
I'll always outweigh the 10-year yield over labor material costs. President Trump wants lower mortgage rates because he saw what happened during COVID. Lumber prices were 1,500. We had inflation, but lower mortgage rates, builders were able to sell homes. So this to me will always be a 10-year yield story. Mortgage rates go lower, new home sales could grow, existing home sales grow. We just do not have policy right now. If the labor market starts to get weaker, housing could perform better because the 10-year yield should go lower in that environment.
Have we gotten any compression between mortgage rates and
I'll send you the code on
Great question.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Xenos.
The average spread historically has been 170 basis points. We're probably closer to 250 today. That would certainly help if we saw some compression there.
Logan, so what's the outlook? I mean, not knowing exactly where rates are going, what do you think is going to happen in activity rest of the year?
The existing home sale market has actually had 15 straight weeks of positive year-over-year growth data. However, that's working from all-time lows. The builders, are still at 2019 levels. If the 10-year yield could just get down a little bit more, new home sales can grow.
We should just
existing
short
home sales can grow.
follow the bot.
Very, very stubborn in keeping rates near 7% rather than near 6%. The 10-year yield rules everything right now. So we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Existing home sales market should perform a little bit better than the new home sale market this year.
All right, thank you guys both for your predictions and talking us through housing, Logan and John.
When we come back, trade like Warren Buffett, a look at Berkshire's latest stock disclosures and this new secret position we keep talking about. Charter and Cox, of course, a huge story teaming up for this multi-billion-dollar media merger, one of the biggest of the year, biggest definitely since April 2. Take a look at the S&P's best performers in some early trading. Super Micro continues to be at the top of the list. Don't go away.
The road to opportunity is often the road overlooked. At Enterprise Mobility, we guide
I gotta
companies
get
to
out.
unique solutions.
Order canceled.
I'll get out quick even if I can.
Order submitted.
Because we believe the more ways we all have to move forward, the further we'll all go.
Your shipping manager left to find himself, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. Sponsored jobs on Indeed are 2.5 times faster to first hire. Visit Indeed.com/hire. At Beecham, finding opportunity in fixed income today helps
I
secure
might have,
tomorrow.
what,
Our time-tested fixed income
54.
suite, backed by over 145 years of risk experience, helps investors meet their
Oh, you're
goals.
going long now?
Beecham
Okay.
Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
Once you have kids, you want to make sure that they're taken care of. I kept putting it off, but finally I searched best online life insurance, and Ethos came up. I was able to get a rate instantly. It's a relief, to be honest.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Goldilocks needs a place of her own, and fast. Thankfully, she's on Redfin. They update their listings every 2 minutes. And with so many options, she's bound to find exactly what she wants.
This one's just right.
Silver is at a 10-year high. Kunming Silver boasts one of the largest resources owned by a junior company. With a new high-grade discovery in Mexico, the potential for growth and leverage to silver is significant. Kunming Silver.
American manufacturers power our economy. At Biz2 Credit, we help them grow with fast, flexible financing. Financing that means more jobs, more growth, and more made in America. Biz2 Credit, funding what's next. Scan the code to learn more.
Welcome to Reinvented with Accenture. I'm super excited to welcome Corey Berry, the CEO
Oh
of
yeah,
Best
Fox
Buy.
coming. Let me up my
Order canceled.
account so I get more money.
Order submitted.
We've all said is continuously pushing the envelope on how you change lives for the pet. When you know how you want a customer to feel, you re-engineer completely how you think about going to market.
Breaking earnings news. Home Depot, Palo Alto Networks, Target, Snowflake, reporting, market reaction, expert analysis, strategies for
No, I want to make some money. I ain't getting out.
CNBC and streaming on CNBC Plus. CNBC, live viciously.
Welcome back. Some big moves last quarter out of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Leslie Picker has been tracking that action. She joins us now. Leslie.
Hey, David. Yeah, some known moves, some unknown moves. Berkshire Hathaway's 13F did include a note that said the SEC granted one or more new holdings confidential treatment. So We can let the parlor games begin on what those might be. In terms of actual disclosures, though, from Q1, Berkshire Hathaway seems to be souring a bit on banks in favor of certain consumer names. Berkshire sold out of the rest of its Citigroup stake, worth about $1 billion. It also sold about 49 million shares of BofA.
We didn't get out. We got greedy.
7%, and it pared back a bit of Capital One as well. But Berkshire added in several of its consumer names. The firm more than doubled its exposure to Constellation Brands to hold more than $2 billion worth of the beer, wine, and spirits producer. The firm also more than doubling its stake in Pool Corp. Berkshire slightly added to its holding in Charter, which is still a relatively small holding
Hey,
in the broader portfolio.
can you connect Project X to TradingView? I don't think so, right?
As that did go up.
Yeah, I don't
during
think
the
you
quarter,
can.
So maybe a little bit portfolio management there. And Berkshire didn't touch its Apple stake. That one, of course, closely watched. That's worth about $67 billion as of quarter end. Now, just a reminder, these positions are as of the
Shit,
end
you guys
of
got
the
out?
quarter,
I'm
March
still in.
31st. They may have changed in the 6 weeks since then, guys.
Leslie, thanks. So much information yesterday. Appreciate it. Leslie Picker this morning. Let's get a news update as well with Silvana now. Hey, Silvana.
Carl, good morning to you.
Get this last winner.
Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine since Moscow's 2022 invasion came to a close today after less than 2 hours. Britain's prime minister said President Trump and European leaders, including Ukraine's president, held a call today and agreed Russia's position in the talks is unacceptable. The Associated Press says Moscow demanded Ukraine withdraw its forces from huge swaths of territory. A judge rejected American singer Chris Brown's request for bail as he faces allegations that he assaulted a music producer in a London nightclub in 2023. The judge ordered Brown to be held until June 13th, which is supposed to be the third date of his world tour. Prosecutors say Brown was unprovoked when he beat the producer with a bottle and then punched and kicked him. And roughly 450 New Jersey Transit engineers went on strike at midnight today, leaving tens of thousands of commuters to find other ways to travel to New York City and throughout the state. It is the first statewide transit strike in 40 years in New Jersey. The engineers are demanding higher pay.
I think I'm gonna average down when we go down.
And there's a Shakira concert at midnight. Right, yeah. Which is one last night too.
Order submitted.
Yeah. All right, that's a headache. Thank you, Silvana. Now, energy stocks lagging today as President Trump says the U.S. is, quote, very close to a nuclear deal with Iran. What an agreement would mean for the energy complex next. Plus, details on a big under-the-radar win for the very wealthy in the Republican tax bill. We're all over that when we come right back.
So, you like your job?
I love it. What I do is really important.
You give eye exams.
I give fresh starts, better vision, healthy eyes. Everybody wants that.
That they do. And they don't want to spend more money than they have to.
True. But good eye health? That's priceless.
Hero Doc saves vision. Hero Owl saves money. Use your vision insurance for exams, glasses, and contacts all at America's Best.
That's a
because
huge
I'm
drop.
Healthcare, and you deserve the best.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things just right.
Eek.
That's why I
What
love
we have
Redfins home
left?
recommendations.
Let me see,
They
what
know
else
what
do
I
we
want
have?
even before I do. A home that's just right.
Vision
Yeah.
Cloud, tech-
Life
Okay, so we
insurance
have
is a
the
wonderful asset, but what happens when you
TPT
no
now.
longer need it, or you can't afford it any longer? Meet Tom and Susan. They chose to sell their policy for $200,000 cash. Now they're sailing through retirement. If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell it for cash. Get an instant estimate at ovidlife.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Or call 1-800-502-0100. That's 1-800-502-0100.
You sure?
When your home
Dang,
needs
good
work,
luck.
where do you go?
Angie. That's where Angie came in.
With Angie, find top-rated pros in your area, plus compare quotes and pricing to help you get all your jobs done well. Find top-rated pros in your area at Angie.com.
Did you know that 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about?
Well, that's dumb. I keep track of my subscriptions in spreadsheets and always get it ready.
We'll see about that. All right, so I just downloaded Rock Money in your phone, and it looks like you're paying for
It's kinda bad.
meal delivery kits.
What?
Why?
Let me see. It's probably my ex gotta call and cancel.
Oh, wait, with Rocket Money, you can cancel subscriptions you don't want right from the app with just a few taps.
Well, I still lost $400.
But you might not have because Rocket Money will also reach out and try to get you a refund for the money you lost.
Actually?
Yeah, download Rocket Money.
a lot of squeezes on AQ though, so
Marshall
I think we'll
Fire
go
have
up.
a very particular set of skills. They can hunt down the latest trends. Sushi. Take quality very seriously. They're highly trained deal-making professionals who travel far and wide to hustle the best of the best for you. We get the deals. You get
Oh,
the
is that
goods
you,
back.
Apple Trader on Twitter? What's up, man? Ah,
No goes nowhere. But yes is where things get wrong. Yes takes that chance, that step, that climb. No case can your yes anywhere. OtterBox. Made for
Up market today, but energy, worst performing S&P sector right now, down a full percent, giving back some gains from earlier in the week. In the last 24 hours, President Trump raised hopes of a nuclear deal with Iran, saying the U.S. is, quote, in very serious negotiations with Iran for long-term
yeah, my
peace.
mom is toast.
The sector, energy, it's down over 9% since the beginning of the quarter, the second worst performing sector so far. Key
Yeah, this short
laggards
is
since
good.
then, names like
Order filled.
Halliburton,
I averaged
Hess,
down, so I have
APA,
4
all
now.
down around 15%. Marathon Petroleum, one bright spot actually for the quarter, leading the sector higher. But Carl, the prospect of a potential peace deal with Iran means fewer sanctions, means more oil flows back online, and that's been pressuring prices.
Let's stick with that energy trade. Bring in Francisco Blanche this morning, head of global commodities derivatives research over at Bank of America. Francisco, good to see you again. Are your hopes high for a deal?
Hey, Carl. Actually, yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll see a deal. Mostly because the parties involved want the deal. I think the President Trump's been very clear. He wants the deal. He's trying to push for peace across the Middle East. That we heard that word repeatedly coming from him. And I think Saudi Arabia this time around, they also want to have a peaceful relationship with their neighbors. And the Iranians, frankly, they've had a very rough time for the last year and a half. They've lost a lot of regional allies. So I do think all the stars are aligned for some kind of deal. And I guess perhaps the one part that doesn't quite like the idea of a deal is Israel. But I do
The
think
eval's gonna blow soon.
chances are relatively high that we'll see something come out of this.
Right. So what happens to any kind of security premium and what happens to production?
So we think uranium production
Okay,
likely
that
goes up a
spot
bit on the news. It also
almost
depends on
100
what kind of
points.
deal
Wow.
we get. Remember, Iran is a country where there's almost no Western participation. And I think opening up the country to the involvement of U.S. companies and maybe more European involvement and what have you could be potentially significant medium term as well, not just the short run. So I think it could be pretty positive for volumes and ultimately negative for prices.
Meantime, you got these other sort of variables, China demand, the long-term electrification of the planet. Are those also suppressing prices in the medium term?
In the medium term, they are. There's no question.
15 minutes still looks like it's gonna drop. We might lose
But also
300.
we've seen a bit of a pullback in electric vehicle sales around the world. There's also potentially some slowdown in the deployment of renewable power. So that may support prices. And also remember, oil at $60, $65 a barrel is kind of cheap.
Yeah, it's bearish. The bot's been short.
Per MMBTU, which I know sounds sounds high compared to U.S. natural gas, but most of the world pays $11, $12 per MMBTU for their gas. So oil today is kind of the same price or cheaper than gas. So it's a pretty affordable fuel. So I do think it will generate incremental demand at
Yeah.
prices. Plus China's stimulating. So we don't see a lot of downside. We think it's a bit of a, if you like, it's a price. It's a bit of a price war because Saudi Arabia is having production. But it's a price war that's going to be very different to 2020. In 2020, it was
Tempted to long, but I don't see anything to long.
WTI. This time around, it's going to be likely broad.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna drop a little bit more.
How about break-evens here in this country? Would you expect rig count to go up or down, given sort of, I guess, price pressures on inputs, right, and steel and all that stuff, and then the underlying price? How much incentive is there to drill?
You know, Carl, you make a great point. I was in Texas recently, and that's the message that came about from 20 plus meetings there. And everyone's talking about lower prices, and to your point, higher input costs. That means lower margins. Tariffs on steel are biting.
Gambit there.
Ultimately, you know, I think
Oh,
we'll see,
Gambit.
companies
Check
pulling
YouTube.
back, if we stay in these ranges.
To check
We
YouTube.
believe US will
Oh,
go
man.
flat within the next 6 to 12 months. It probably won't fall.
My stream,
prices come down a little more. But then again, we don't see a complete breakdown this time around. As I mentioned, I think it's Saudi Arabia.
You really
wants
piss him
rental
off.
market share. Saudi Arabia also wants to put some pressure on the members
You
that
should
are
say
not compliant
sorry.
with the OPEC plus agreements. And the third reason I think it's, you know, President Trump's been very vocal about adding more
Are you long?
volumes to push prices lower, which in our view can offset as much as half of the impact from tariffs. So
Jay-Z.
what's going on here in energy is very important for the broad U.S. economy and also for the world economy.
Yeah. Finally, one question on retail gasoline, just for the consumer. I think gasoline futures for this time of year, lowest since 2020. Would you expect after we get done with the refinery maintenance stuff that we get some actual relief at the pump?
I do think so, Carl. It's going to be pretty significant relief. Also remember, oil prices have been coming down in a period where they typically tend to go up, right? I mean, as you pointed out, the peak of the driving season is July 4th, and we're essentially a month and a half away from there. And typically,
I still think we're going under 300.
We've seen the weakness ahead of the seasonal demand peak. So to me, we could see oil pretty soft here and passing that benefit on straight to consumers. That's my view. And like I said, I think a lot of it will offset the tariff, come to offset the tariff impact. So it'll probably be good news for inflation as well.
Yeah, huge implications for consumer spending at large. That's a lot going on, Francisco. A long way from Iran to
Short,
tariffs
heavy
to
pump
gasoline. Good to see you. Thanks for the help today.
until the bot goes long.
Well, speaking of the Middle East, more deals announced there as President Trump wrapped up his trip abroad today. The U.S. and the United Arab Emirates working on a path to allow the UAE to buy some of the most advanced U.S.-made semiconductors for AI development. That's according to President Trump.
It looks like Doc timed them out, but you know I don't use admin stuff.
$200 billion in commercial deals with the UAE. And that's just one of the key business deals that were announced this week. Saudi Arabia, remember earlier we were there talking about the $600 billion investment across a series of agreements here in the U.S. Amazon is definitely a part of that news, announcing a strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia's Humane, that's their new AI company. And then Qatar, too, in between, promising economic exchanges
That shot was good you did earlier.
$1.2 trillion, including a massive Boeing order. Guys, story of the week, now the White House can claim $2 trillion in deals, at least announced, committed, MOUs, memorandums of understanding. Some of these were commitments that were already under discussion, like some of the tech deals with Amazon and the UAE, but there is no question that in addition to
I got the code for Chronos. I gotta give it to you.
for President Trump in the most grand and elaborate
That's a cool looking code.
the business deals came rolling in. It was an extremely transactional trip and hugely beneficial, I think, for companies like a Boeing, which was caught up in the trade crosshairs with China, on top of the big Qatar Airways
know that code
deal that
works.
was announced this week. Etihad of the UAE announced it's going to have a
one of you
$14 billion deal
No
with
rush.
Boeing. So Boeing, Amazon, Nvidia, some of the key winners, no doubt, in this week's trip.
Right. Building out their AI infrastructure, obviously a key. Do we know whether Qatar would have gone with Airbus, for example, over Boeing in terms of its needs, or?
I'm not sure we know that, but we do know that President Trump has been a salesman of Boeing, right, especially after the China thing, and that the visit was met with deals, with money, and that's been his singular theme: invest in America, invest in the U.S. And so from that perspective, and he got these countries and these companies to do that, and brought along American business. I mean, in Saudi, where I was there, that's where most of them showed up. But throughout the trip, we saw them appear. Jensen Huang, I think, was there for the entire trip, alongside President Trump. announcing deals and sort of supporting the openness. I think, Carl, the geopolitical ramifications of all this will be interesting as well, which we don't fully grasp yet, but clearly strengthening the relationship on the deal front.
Yeah, economics came first on this trip. By the way, Morgan Stanley just ups Boeing target to 200. They were at 185.
Yeah, I wanted to short
Meantime,
all this
NVIDIA
phone, so
responding to the
it's
report,
okay.
they were planning to a
Too late now.
Shanghai
I'm not going to
research
short
center and a new
anymore.
commitment to China. A spokesperson tells CNBC, quote, "We are not
I mean,
sending
on the
any
15
GPU
minutes
designs
on
to
my
China to be modified to
oscillator,
comply with
looks like it's going to go
export
down
controls."
more.
We talked about this, David, with Jim earlier this morning, based on a story we got out of the FT today.
Yeah, I mean, NVIDIA's relationship with China, what it will be able to actually sell there is obviously important. You know, you're
I
talking
have
about
$100. It's going to blow. Yeah, it's going to blow now.
$5.5 billion write-down already in terms of their inability now to
My
continue the
eval's gone.
chip, which was designed specifically for the Chinese market. But the question, I think, and it's interesting to note, how much time Jensen Huang has spent around the administration, around the president. The question is, what will be allowed? Not just there, but in other parts of the country as well.
I mean, so I think he's gone up to like one of the favorite CEOs for President Trump. In Riyadh, he specifically in Trump's foreign policy speech said, "Jensen's here, thank you. Big shout out to Jensen. Tim Cook's not here, but you're here, Jensen, and we're very proud to have you here." That whole thing. So that speaks to, I think, the closeness of the relationship that they had and the fact that he was there throughout the entire trip. So the question is what they'll be allowed to do there, right, in China. But I think they're very careful to say we're going to comply with all the
Yeah,
export
I'm gone. That one busted.
restrictions.
Love you, Jensen.
Love you, Jensen.
Not you, Tim.
Where is Tim Cook?
Yeah, it's only $15. It's cheap bonus.
To be there at least in the next 7, except for Microsoft.
Yeah, even Cisco couldn't. I mean, people have schedules.
Yeah,
it's true.
But it's an important point. It's an important point. Because Trump did call out Cook by name, of course. All right. Hey, we got some M&A, and fairly big deal. In fact, $34.5 billion when you throw in debt. It's a cable deal involving Charter and Cox getting together. Of course, Cox is a private company and has been one of the longest-standing private companies in this country. Also, Mike Novogratz Galaxy Digital just opening for trade on the NASDAQ this after direct listing. It had been trading on the Toronto Exchange since 2020.
Order canceled.
Got enough. Yeah, I got another one for $15. I don't want to trade my funded today, so just want to try those evals. Hits lower day again. Going long again.
Order submitted.
Silver both one of the largest resources owned by a junior company with a new high-grade discovery in Mexico. The potential for growth and leverage to silver is significant. Ruby Silver.
Goldilocks needs a place of her own, and fast. Thankfully, she's on Redfin. They update their listings every 2 minutes. And with so many options, she's bound to find exactly what she wants.
This one's just right. Is she moving? Yes.
Oh, it's happening. It is happening.
You worked hard to own your home, and it deserves complete protection because
You blew the funded? Oh my
windows
god.
and maybe even install cameras. You've got insurance for fire, flood, and theft. One critical protection gap that
Who?
leaves your entire investment vulnerable.
Or Jay-Z?
Fraud is a
Oh,
rogue scam.
the funded's on the pro? I thought it was the other one, the cheap one.
It is amazing to have a collagen. I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this armor colostrum. And if you don't know what colostrum is, it is amazing. It is a bioactive whole food. It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance, your hair, like immune system, its strength, and supports all of that. The first thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had.
You want me? I'll follow. I don't want to follow you.
What if you could invest in a future?
I'll wait to get lower.
Non-invasive and relatively painless. Medicus Pharma's groundbreaking solution delivers chemotherapy directly.
Oh yes? Oh yeah. It's gonna go up then. Trump's for the market. Yeah.
With the skin cancer
I think that's what happened yesterday. It was down and then obviously going up.
Cost-effective, non-surgical options.
Wow, you see UNH lost all 3%.
Leading the
charge in skin cancer.
Yeah.
We're Mizuho.
No, I didn't sell. I'm trying to hold long term.
Financing the aluminum giant, building better homes. Mizuho was there. The merger of two logistics titans, also us. Anywhere an industrials company needs a corporate
Yeah, I didn't
investment
take
bank,
it.
we're there. Mizuho Americas.
Introducing CNBC Plus, a new streaming platform from the #1 source in business news. On-the-go access to international financial markets, business news,
Yeah.
and analysis as it happens. Bell global live stream. CNBC Plus.
No. Activation fees should be 50% off, not 90. Where'd I post? No. It's 99% off, and then 50% off the activation fee.
And big cable deal consolidation coming to this sector. And Charter is at least the one public entity that we
I'm looking at it on the channel. This one, right?
stock up modestly this morning. It's announced it will acquire the privately held Cox Communications.
Yeah, in the chat.
It's about a $34.5 billion deal. That does include about 12
Oh,
billion
Expos.
or so in debt, but you are talking about 21.9 billion overall in equity. Much of that made up of Charter shares. Just to put it in perspective here, Cox itself.
I see it. I'm looking at it. 90% on lifetime. Shit, I guess it is. You're talking about this one, right?
In the business of cable itself.
I copy and paste that. I copy and paste from the dashboard.
Any number of other public
I see what you're talking about. That's huge if it's true.
expand in that part of the country where it operates.
Doc, can you confirm that?
Customers passing.
Oh, Doc's not in here.
And Charter prevails in part because the time
Yeah.
that apparently its CEO.
Yeah, let me know. I think that's a mistake.
Team, the family as well, getting them
90% off activation fees. No way. Yeah.
his leadership and just
I need to
gaining their
tell him.
confidence. The deal itself, I'm told, only took a couple of months.
I don't think so. I think it's 50% off.
How it looks, let's give you
Let me know though. Just let me know.
We're talking $4 billion in cash, $6 billion of a convert that will eventually become Charter shares, and then that 33.6 million shares. Also the $12 billion in debt, 3.9 times leverage. Really not that much for this company. In fact, they do see themselves going down to between 3.5.
And he's still talking shit to Gambit. Oh my god.
Leverage. Remember, it's been a John Malone-ish company. He likes to have some leverage in there, and what you get is sort of a combination in which the Cox entities family will own 23% of the combined company. They will have governance rights. A few board members. Their current
Oh,
CEO
now
will
it's going
become
back.
chairman
That's a
of
good
the
long.
company as well. So maybe they didn't look for the highest bid. They didn't seem to get
Yeah. Like Big E.
but they are getting governance.
goes
And
crazy when
it
he's
comes to
drunk.
Premium or lack thereof, they're getting the same multiple that Charter currently
Oh shit,
trades
it's on
at
YouTube.
on
Sorry,
its
Biggie.
expected adjusted EBITDA for 2025. That's what gets you to this number. So it's sort of they call it a heads up deal, basically. You get what we get. And that's how they got to it. Why now is a question I was asking of both sides, of course. Things are becoming even more dynamic. You have Starlink out there, for example, becoming a more important player certainly in rural areas, perhaps even in suburban America as well. And only going to
Yeah, it's
grow.
still on there on the
You have
website.
increasingly
I'm gonna
importance
let
of
them know.
wireless, where Spectrum, the brand here, of course, has become very aggressive. You have AI coming, and software. So there's a
It's a
lot
good
of
long day.
different things sort of knocking on the door, so to speak. And that seems to be one of the reasons why the Cox family chose now is the time, Sarah, to say, hey, good time for us to be part of a larger entity that can compete at scale. And interestingly, they will be significant shareholders. Newhouse family continues to be a significant shareholder. And John Malone, whose Liberty Broadband is also merging in to the company, and this will all be done at the same time, essentially. That deal was announced back in November. Will also personally still control, I'm told 1 to 2%, but still an important shareholder as well.
Comcast shares a little bit higher. Just wondering maybe what they might do as a big competitor. This is our parent company, of course.
Yeah, it's unclear that there's much to do there at this point in terms of this deal. But on the regulatory front, this one would seem to be okay. It's domestic. It's going to add jobs in the U.S. Brian Roberts, well, Donald Trump,
he's been a target.
Yes,
of Trump lately. When we come back, big win for the wealthy in the Republican tax bill, and it has nothing to do with salt. We're going to explain when Spark on the Street comes right back.
Only the ServiceNow platform connects every corner of your business, putting AI to work for people.
HR?
Yeah.
IT.
Yeah.
R&D.
Yep. OMG.
You can't ban him on YouTube, can you?
That's the department I work for.
No, I don't think you, there's no option.
Is this your dream of retirement? How about this sweet deal? I like fishing. Or is this a little more your style? Retiring wealth isn't a guarantee, it's a goal. It's easy when markets are going up. But what about when they're not? That's why you need this. Call for Fisher's Retirement Survival Kit, featuring your guide to surviving market volatility, our stock market outlook, plus the Fisher Investments Difference. 3 indispensable guides, yours free for calling 1-800-213-5317. Fisher Investments' disciplined approach will help see you through the market's ups and downs and give you the confidence you need to reach a comfortable retirement. And our fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. Call now for your free retirement survival kit. 1-800-213-5317. See if your dream retirement is on track. If your portfolio is $1 million or more, call Fisher today. Call 1-800-213-5317.
Silver is at a 10-year high. Cooney Silver boasts one of the largest resources owned by a junior company. With a new high-grade discovery in Mexico, the potential for growth and leverage to silver is significant. Cooney Silver.
What we talked about understanding what just happened in the market.
Yeah, it's a typo. I'm sure it is. No way it's 90% off.
Investors, beginning investors, I'm always what?
Closing bell overtime. Weekdays 4 Eastern and streaming on CNBC. Plus.
There's no option to ban. Yeah, I don't see an option to ban.
This is Square for restaurants. This is a big, tasty point of sale combo with an extra side of service. Built for
I'll put on
fast-paced,
timeout for
growing,
24 hours.
and
That's about
streamlined my
it.
whole operation yesterday. Restaurants. Square is built for more orders, more openings, more opportunities. For more than 100,000 restaurants
I have 700.
nationwide. Square, big in restaurants.
Where? Octagon?
One big potential win
Oh,
for
okay, I see it.
GOP's
I'm gonna watch
One Big
him.
Beautiful Bill is a much more generous estate tax. Robert Frank here at Post 9 with the story. So what does it look like?
Yeah, so there, this
Yeah,
is one thing that I think
I
all
sent him a
of us
message.
can agree on has a high chance of passing, and that's because you could call it the slow death of the death tax. Now, as part of the 2017 tax cuts, you might remember the estate tax was dramatically reduced. So instead of taxing estates worth
It would be nice though.
those tax cuts doubled the exemption to $11 million. So estates worth up to $11 million.
Yeah, that would be so sweet if it is.
$22 million owed no estate tax. That benefit, of course, like the other provisions, was expected to expire at the end of this year. Now, the House not only extending that tax cut, but making it even more generous. Under the new plan, the exemption would go to $15 million or $30 million for couples. It would be made, and this is the important part, it would be made permanent, and it would be indexed for inflation, meaning it would reset probably at another $1 million a year extra without any expiration. Now, with such a high exemption, the estate tax is getting a lot less effective. The wealth of the top 1% has grown by over 75% since 2017. Meanwhile, the number of estates paying any estate tax is down 27%. Only 4,000 paid the tax in the most recent year. And that's why it raises only about $20 billion in revenue. That's below where it was back in 2007. Back then, the exemption was just $2 million. Over 16,000 estates paid the estate. Now, for the full analysis of the tax changes that affect high earners, check out the Inside Wealth newsletter at cnbc.com/insidewealth. That's cnbc.com/insidewealth.
But they don't, I mean, like, Ellison, Musk,
It's
Zuckerberg,
just
I
a
mean,
way
they're
to
never
ban
going to pay
somebody.
an
I don't think
estate
you
tax,
can.
right?
The estate tax attorneys have become very good at working around it, which is why even if, you know, you went it to 30, 50, 100 million, it doesn't really bite. Now, the premise of the estate tax is we don't want a fixed aristocracy. We don't want these dynamic
It's over.
fortunes to replicate every generation. And I think, so then the question is, where do you set that level? And I think you've set it at 30 million where it doesn't affect the family farm, but you're right. Even those who are wealthier
can plan around it. And yeah, they have armies of attorneys who help them do that.
But it's not just
Order
about, I mean, middle
canceled.
class gets a permanent tax cut out of this as well, right? Overall.
Overall, yes, absolutely, especially with the standard deduction, the child tax credit, all that stuff going way up,
try
at
to
least for a
short
period of time. Absolutely, everyone
440.
gets a tax cut. You get a tax cut.
Not salt, though. We're still nowhere on salt.
Not yet. There'll be something.
A long way to go.
Order
Let's
submitted.
see. That long was good earlier if I followed this.
Bravo founder Orlando Bravo on side of
No.
life in the IPO market. And
Yeah, there's no, nothing's going long anytime soon on the block. Still looks like it's gonna go down more. On 15 minutes. Yeah.
This is Mia. She dreams of taking her boutique swimwear brand nationwide. With her business growing so fast, she needs fast funding to keep making waves. That's why Mia has U.S. Bank Business Essentials, a combination of checking and card payment processing, giving her access to funds typically in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because we love watching her make a splash. That's the power
No,
of Mia.
I didn't get it in.
And this is the
I put in 440 to short.
Explore the world the Viking way. From the quiet comfort of elegant small ships.
I haven't touched my
No
Apex.
children and no casinos.
Actually, I haven't touched anything.
We actually have reinvented ocean voyages, designing all-inclusive experiences for the thinking person.
I don't like Friday anyway.
Voted world's best by both Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast Traveler. Learn more at Viking.com.
Mm-hmm. Are you green on your TPT?
Can steal your home without you even knowing. Nobody thinks that I can take their house.
Nice.
Nobody thinks that. Criminals forge your signature on one document, transfer your title out of your name, take out loans using your equity.
3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices, and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house.
Stop trading like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Financial and legal nightmare. Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
At Public Rec, we develop premium performance fabrics that are built to last and hard to live without. Our Daymaker pants, with their varied sizing options, are designed to fit your life's moments. More comfortable than jeans, more stylish than sweats.
This is our call to inaction. There's the call of the recliner.
We're getting takeout because we've been out all day.
It's the Lazy Boy Memorial Day sale. Great deals on your new favorite lazy spots, plus 0% interest for 48 months. We will take a load off. We're loading up on sex. Hurry in. Memorial Day sale going on now. Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
Experience the power of CNBC Pro. Track your portfolio from every angle.
Oh, that was quick. You got your TPT now. They just sent me an email.
Go to CNBC.com.
Whoever wanted a TPT.
Friday morning, welcome to Money Movers. I'm Carl King today with Sarah Hines at London Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Today, farmer shakeup. Novo Nordisk CEO set to step down as the Wegovy maker faces growing competition and the stock's under some pressure.
Plus, Orlando Bravo, founder of the largest tech buyout firm, Thoma Bravo, joins us here at the New York Stock Exchange. His firm has closed nearly $20 billion in deals over the last year, and he sees more opportunity ahead. He'll tell us where.
Watching the chips today, Applied Materials among the biggest laggards on the S&P. We're going to be joined by the CEO of Microchip. Stocks up 25% in the past week. Overall, not a bad picture, although the headline numbers are pretty muted. S&P's up 5, Dow's up 40, but breadth not too bad. Yields have given us some relief after a brief scare yesterday, especially at the long end. Our CNBC senior markets commentator Mike Santoli, I know, has been watching that element.
Got a lot of goodies from them.
Yes, and it has cleared the way for this last little bit of upside in the equity markets. I mean, I think
Private
Wall
jet.
Street's been
A
making
whole bunch of
full use
goodies.
of two real gifts. One was the extremity of the negative sentiment and positioning we had 5-6 weeks ago. The second is this window of time after you have this radical de-escalation with China, before you're getting to the deadlines, when nobody's expecting much out of trade, to really de-risk and lower the stakes of the economic numbers. And so we've seen that this week too. Everything looks okay.
it looks a little bit eye of the beholder. You can decide to focus on this or that, but the macro is hanging in there enough that you don't have to declare that, as you were talking earlier, Sarah, that the hard data is about to buckle the way the survey data happened. Now,
Should we short?
position-wise, S&P's at 23%. It's getting a little bit stretched. You're starting to see some signs that we should probably
No,
pause
looks
and
like it might
pull
go
back.
up more.
But we've cleared so many technical
I'll
hurdles,
short it.
and
Hit
professional
440 and
investors
then
were
another
so
one at 500.
underinvested on this move higher that it feels as if they feel forced to participate.
23% since
The intraday low.
the intraday low.
The S&P.
Because we're a few percentage points
I think
higher
today's
than where we were on
OPEX, right?
April 2nd, which was Liberation Day, and we're a few percentage points lower than we were at the February high, where it was like
Might
peak
get wild
pro-growth Trump
in the
trade.
day.
That's right. We basically haven't really spent a lot of time above where we are right now.
Okay,
It's parts of
UNH is
several
going back
months.
up.
One
Nice.
thing I was looking at earlier, I think it's like 59.26 on the S&Ps, where we closed the day after Election Day, right? So it's sort of like, have we had a reset? Have we decided that, we had this huge scare because of the sequencing of the policy moves? You had this huge gut check in the markets. It's come back. It seems like it was more of an event-driven near bear market than it was the start of a real kind of pricing in a recession and bad stuff. But what gets you up from here? What gets us back to 23 times forward earnings?
Well, there was, I'm just thinking in the depths of April, there were technicians who said if we can reclaim the 200-day, well, that might be a path to new highs.
That's almost by definition we've done it. Yeah. Essentially, there's not a lot between here and the old highs that you would say, oh, that's going to stop the market in its tracks, except for how it gets there. It's been this vertical leg higher. It looks almost like a perfect V. Usually something comes along where it makes it kind of churn around for a little while.
No, I should have.
At this point,
It's supposed to short every
the
pump
economy's got to weaken.
because of the
We're
bond.
going to have to see something happen on the inflation front that really disturbs the current benign backdrop. It's not happening.
Change
Order
it.
canceled.
Could we get to a point
407
where
short.
we're now overestimating how much
submitted.
trade de-escalation is going to be? Right? We just don't know. Remember this game? It's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks, and we went from a Friday when the president said 80 sounds good to Monday morning it was 30. You're not going to get that kind of.
But we're moving, we're going down instead of up, which I think is the point.
We do hope.
We do hope.
And that's what the market's banking.
All right, Mike, thank you. Mike Santoli. Turning to how all of this affects the current environment for deals. Private equity firm Thoma Bravo selling
Is
its
that off? I don't think that's off Phoenix.
for more than $3 billion just to sweep the company, completing exits representing
But Doc was down to 6,000 and he came back up to 17,000.
also reaching nearly $20
Crazy.
billion in that time. Joining us exclusively is founder and managing partner Orlando Bravo. Thoma Bravo manages $179 billion in assets. It's good to have you here. Welcome.
Sarah, thanks for having me. Good to see you, Carl, as well.
Oh shit! Did my
Sale,
hit?
that comes off of a deal that you did with the Nasdaq, selling that stake. Is
I
there
forgot I had a short on my FE and I'm at 800. I was down like 1,000 something.
With a Benson, one of the highest quality companies we've ever owned. We sold it to Nasdaq. But actually,
That's sweet.
Nasdaq was very brave at the time. It was at a time when the market had just dropped a lot. There was a lot of pressure on the stock, and she had a strategic intent in terms of buying the business. We sold the business, and as part of the deal, we got a portion in stock and a portion in cash. And over time, we have sold that stock. But we are very bullish on Nasdaq, and there's nothing to read into it except we're a private equity firm, and we're not meant to hold public stock for a long period of time. We just have to do it carefully and support the companies. But over time, we have to sell those.
So what are you doing right now? How are you looking at the environment?
What we're doing is we're busy. I don't think I've slept in the last year. This is the hardest I've worked.
Why? What do you
in the last 12 months? Well, you said it in your introduction. We distributed back to our LPs $20 billion in cash in 12 months. This doesn't happen just magically. The phone isn't ringing with buyers just looking to sell companies all of a
Dallas?
sudden.
Why
You have to
Dallas?
work on it. You have to call the buyers. Now, if you have the highest quality companies that are hitting their numbers in this environment,
Is that Universal
people can
done? Is
underwrite
it close to
those
your
and they
house?
can buy them. So we focused on that. And then buying. We bought $20 billion worth of companies, including the Jefferson deal recently.
Is
for
it almost
$10
done?
We're looking at some of the big ones in the past year.
So we have been, extremely busy. And look, the point is, and you were having that conversation before, in private equity, our peers are too focused on the macro. The fact is, there is so much liquidity in the market for private credit, for private equity, People are underinvested as well in the private markets. And the world is full of high quality
I'm building
companies
one
that
for
can be
kids.
improved by good owners and with good operations. And we just put our heads down and we focus on that. And that has made us, really, really busy when many others are not yet.
But you just said the ability to hit your numbers in this environment. Is that a challenge? Is that a small sample right now, given what we have in the macro?
That is, it's such a good question. It's a challenge, and that's
You'll
where
love it. It's
operations
nice.
come in. See,
Do
in
not go to the
2021,
Universal in
in our
Cali.
sector,
It's
in
really
software,
small.
there were so many bad managerial practices, and some that people couldn't
Okay.
control.
You like
Some
that?
people had to work
You'll
remote,
love
so
the
you
one
lost a
in
sense of culture,
Florida. It's
maybe
really nice.
oversold to your customers, and now there's a lot of volatility in some of those companies' numbers. So it's very difficult to expose them because a buyer, when they're going to pay these kind of prices, you need stability and you need to be able to underwrite it for a long period of time, but especially for today. If you cannot
I feel like
underwrite the
forcing a
next 9
trade.
months, you cannot do the deal. Now, when we have quality companies, those are the types of companies you can sell, and those are the types of companies you can buy. When we bought Jefferson, of course, the macro was challenged. You talked about geopolitics and policy, but we could underwrite that company and its cash flow for a long period of time.
You deployed a lot of capital during what,
Is there a holiday
2020,
next week?
21, that sort of period, right? And that was a challenging period.
That is true.
Oh, Memorial Day,
But going back to
26.
Adenza, if you chart the NASDAQ, we combined two companies to form Adenza, and they were done at the market peak. But we still had a wonderful outcome because all we care about is how much did we pay, did the companies hit the numbers that we underwrote, and is the exit multiple still valid? And it is.
Let me see. This is CNBC.
We buy a specific company, and those are the three things that you can control and that matter in an investment. It's also interesting that 2021 period when we were super busy, there were
Money
some of
mover.
our investors would say, "Oh, you bought at the peak. It's not looking good." Well, now there's another peak. If you chart it, it looks pretty good actually, but
so you're not worried about monetizing them in this environment.
It's largely where you buy.
It's just I want to keep copy strike me every day. Money mover.
So a big part of our conversation this week has been signs that the capital markets coming back to life, right? We got some M&A, had a couple IPOs. Is it your sense that the period can be sustained beyond this 90-day deadline or whatever we have on trade? Or is this a limited window?
It's going to be a slow year of M&A. And there was a big deal announced today, and of course we've announced some because it takes a while to expose a company, get buyers interested, and selling it. And the pipeline right now is quite low. So it's going to be a low year. It's not going to continue for too long, in my view. There's a lot of money out there. People need to put this money to work. Give you an example in private credit. When we financed the deal, the Jefferson deal, carve out from Boeing, it was about a $4 billion financing. We had the financing arranged. The day the deal's announced, our capital markets group got a call from 70 private lenders. 70. That is what's unheard of in my 25 years in private equity. And we were able to get an even better outcome on that. There's how much liquidity is out there.
It also speaks to how crowded private credit has gotten.
It really is. And it's a wonderful opportunity for private equity because the spreads are much lower than they were before.
So what excites you now? You've been tech focused, software focused. What about the evolution of AI? What's most exciting to you right now?
Oh, that's incredibly exciting. See, in software, we have lived through step function increases in terms of the industry's power and relevance in the corporate world. The first huge one happened around 2010 with software as a service. That created this boom that you're seeing now. That is still left to be played out. Over 50% of corporate applications are still on premise. So we still haven't gone through that whole wave. Now you have AI. We used to tell our corporate customers on behalf of our companies that ultimately every corporation needs to become a software company from a core competency standpoint. Now we're telling those customers every company needs to become an intelligent software company. Two important things that excite us that we've been investing heavily on. One is software companies that own the customer data and that have permission to use that data. You take Coupa software, which you've reported on it before, 5 trillion supply chain transactions they've processed. The ability to mine that data and put it in predictive, powerful analytic models for that data
gives us an enormous AI runway. We're investing heavily under it. Cybersecurity. The new word in the last 6 months is agentic. Everybody's talking about all these agents. Now imagine with identity in cybersecurity, being able to secure the identities not only of individuals, but also of all those agents that are going to,
Who's doing that?
over time. Well, we have two companies that do that. One is SailPoint, which we owned before, took public, owned again, and was a relatively recent IPO. And we have Ping Identity that secures identity. That's a really important part of cybersecurity that we've been investing heavily after is identity management. There's a great third area.
I think I'm gonna long if it dips to
Order canceled.
385.
Provides great solutions for the
There we go.
market-leading company that basically
Order
can lead to a company's plan depending
I'm
on
just waiting.
any factor that changes. And with a changing geopolitical landscape, changing world, that's a very, very relevant company.
I'm going to guess that you think the infrastructure build-out play also has room to run. Nowhere near getting over our skis.
Means you're spending too
Everybody's
much.
throwing so much money at that. You have on the one side
Wait to Monday. It's no point mining now. It's just choppy.
incredible growth and incredible appetite.
Save your money.
That just continues on. And now you have AI data
Think
centers,
my long's
which is a
gonna
different way of building data centers because they don't need to be clustered necessarily, and people are building those and throwing money at it.
But how will you know when that's no longer getting
He's got a new
that
song.
market?
We do enterprise software. See, the value of enterprise software is you don't have capex, tariffs, you're not a physical good, at least not yet.
Right.
And we hope it stays that way. And you don't have a supply chain. See,
Yeah.
once again, software shows that it's a superior business model in times of real big distress or in times of big
Wait, that
change.
YouTube
You have
link
all
doesn't.
these
Oh,
revenue
that's an
from
ad.
simple-
So
simple
stupid.
business.
There we go.
Now, in terms of when do you feel that AI would be a little bit ahead of itself? When does it become a bubble? Our thing is, while it is transformative and we're investing heavily towards technology and AI in particular for corporate customers, which is where the money is evolutionary. It is not revolutionary. It's been now around for a while, and there's not a lot of revenue coming in from corporate customers for these applications yet. It'll happen, but it'll happen over time. You have regulatory risk. You have cybersecurity risk. You have to adjust to their processes. You have to get to the right use case. You have to get to the right ROI. And all of that with big corporations, it just takes a while.
But putting all that
Is that for
together,
Chronos?
Orlando, don't you think that the market appreciates what you appreciate about some of these software
Can you
companies during
log
times of
in
stress?
just straight
Some of these AI
to?
companies and the ability to mine data. Is it hard for you to find good companies that are public
Uh-huh.
to buy because valuations are high in the space?
You are absolutely right.
You might have to
When
open
we
a
talk
ticket.
to public investors in terms of their appetite in our companies, the greatest investors, we think just like them. Investors think the same way. And if you look at software valuations today, if you're highly profitable, if you're growing about 15%, and if you have scale, you're trading for 30 times unlevered free cash flow, 35 times unlevered free cash flow, way in excess of the S&P numbers that you were talking about. That is about right. Those valuations are about fair right now. Our opportunity in the market, the private equity opportunity in this market, is that the average software publicly traded company loses money. These companies are not the best run for shareholders. They have a lot of opportunity. So if you're able to take them private and you're able to put up your operational playbook, whatever it is for a different firm, and get into that rule of 60, rule of 70 in terms of adding growth to EBITDA, then you have very special companies that not only work for their customers, their employees, but they work for the shareholders, and they do that today. And that is what the market really, really wants. That's what the experienced investors with big money really.
So there's opportunity.
Do you think there's something in the nature of being public that sort of corrodes discipline?
There's a bit of that. There's a lot of confusion because when you receive advice from so many shareholders that can tell you how to increase
Yeah, I
the
think it's
stock
waiting on
price
Trump again.
in infinite ways, it can get
I don't
quite
think he's talking today though. He's just walking around
Why don't you
looking all
grow
goofy.
faster? Why don't you dip your margin to grow faster? If we could do that operationally, if we could
God,
grow our
Dubai's
margin
so
to grow
rich.
faster, we would do it. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Say, look, these companies, to their defense, they've done something great. I
My
the
buddy
fact
that
they get
lives
to
there, he
500
says cheap.
billion in
Not too
revenues,
expensive to
dominate
live
the
there.
market. You have to really tip your hat off and respect.
Then again, he's getting paid
However, they're young.
150,000,
So some
so
of these managers have not
should
had
be
that many
enough for
people to
him.
learn from. They have been in business 30 years of having these great explosive managers
Yeah, I pay him
to
150.
go out and put together great operations with great growth.
So
He's
there's
the
your
lead
clue. If you're looking for
one
the
in
next
my
public
company.
company that Orlando Bravo is going to buy, money losing company, despite what seemingly is high valuation, that
50.
needs help on the operating side.
You said it.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too many people copy that.
Well, thank you for joining us to talk through some of the big ideas in the environment. It's really good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Orlando Bravo of Toma Bravo.
Still to come this morning, a leadership shakeup in the pharma space. How this search for the new CEO alters the outlook for Novo and the weight loss strategy. Stocks down 50% in the year.
And then Microchip has seen
Oh,
its
my
shares
alarm's working. I'm up.
60% in the last month.
Order filled.
You check the alarm?
Previously being cut in half.
Order
in the past 12
submitted.
months. It's been quite a ride. The CEO joins us when Money Movers
I'm
returns.
going back in again. I put 385. 385. It hit earlier. I'm trying to get some more.
Trading is wrong.
I'm not
Now
touching
powered by
anything.
Emergent, unlocking the power of Thinkorswim, the award-winning trading platforms.
How much you need?
Focus on Thinkorswim desktop with robust charting and analysis tools,
Go long.
including
I had long at 385. Yeah.
tailor the platforms to your unique needs with nearly endless customization.
It'd be my second time getting in if it hits.
Up to the minute news and insights.
Short term is gonna go up on the 3 minutes, but 15 minutes is still gonna go down. So long is good for now. You got another Columbine?
Asking the right question can greatly impact your future. Are you qualified to do this? What? Especially
Why don't you get some things cheaper?
Do you have a question?
Are you a certified?
Oh, I thought you had 3.
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP
Oh, where's
professionals are
BBB?
committed to acting in your best interest. That's
Yeah.
why it's gotta be.
Check up on my buddy. I haven't
Find
seen him
your
in a while.
CFP professional at letsmakeaplan.org.
Introducing AG1 Next Gen. The daily health drink backed by 4 rigorously designed clinical trials. Next Gen is clinically shown to increase healthy gut bacteria by over 10 times and to close common nutrient gaps. It's one drink for whole body health. The next generation of AG1 is here.
Wow, you guys did great with this place. Yeah, and it was easy to buy with all the help we got from Lady Federal Credit. So what's shaking?
Nothing.
They reply quick.
Navy Federal Credit. Our members are the mission.
There's a power within each of us. When awakened, it can
Well, we're about to go long, Gambit. Let's go.
even help you work smarter.
Yeah, Jay-Z, shut up.
With one simple thing.
Order filled.
Sapa provides that with her luxury mattress.
Anybody long but me?
Handcrafted with
Oh.
new materials in our America.
Okay, what, 93.
Order submitted.
I'll go up. Don't worry.
You deserve the comfort of a great night's sleep.
Take a look at shares of Novo today under pressure after the company announced the CEO would be stepping down after 8 years. The
I'm about to
announcement
get out.
cited, quote, recent
I'm about to
market
get out. I'm about to
challenges and the share price decline
I just want
as
3 to 5
factors
points.
contributing to that joint decision. Shares of Novo down more than 50% on
Order
the year.
canceled.
Joining us
Order
this morning is
submitted.
BMO's head of
92.
healthcare research, David Siegerman. Evan, it's great to have you. We took
Order
a listen
filled.
to the call.
What, you want to do 1? I'm doing 5 points, 4 MNQ, so it adds up. I got out.
Yes, I was definitely taken by
Did you get your
surprise.
$100?
I was expecting a calm Friday, which I guess is a fool's errand in this market. But,
No,
you
I
know,
think, what's on,
he was on the
maybe
earnings
trying
call
to get
last
100.
week. Apparently, he was seeing investors this week
Order
on the road. I
submitted.
caught up with the company after the call, so it was a big surprise.
also, I highlight that, Novo Nordisk Foundation, the main shareholder, is usually very separate and independent from the
379 from the
management
next
of the
long.
company. So I was surprised that they
Jay-Z?
kind of stepped in and really, forced a pivot in
Konnichiwa.
strategy with the unit replacement or the announcement of the departure.
Does it reflect an increasing amount of white space between their product and
You're
Lilly's?
stupid.
100%. And I'm sure, we downgraded
Order
Novo shares a
I'm
month
long
ago
again.
ahead of Market Blip on ahead of earnings.
Get out of
Order
here.
submitted.
Difference between the two companies. If you just look at the scripts of Zepbound versus Wegovy, Zepbound has been accelerating, Wegovy's been flatlining. You might get a bit of a bump from the CVS change come July, but at this point, they have so much ground to make up. It's really a big challenge.
I mean, it's not like it was a
Yes. We always go against the bot.
the stock price tripled. It became one of the
That's
most
why we're
important
losing all
companies
week.
in Europe, and they led on Ozempic and Wegovy in diabetes and obesity. So what went wrong?
I think he just seemed to have lost confidence from the board and
I think I did wrong.
his key
379
investor
is good.
base. I want to highlight that while replacing the CEO might feel good, it doesn't fix the strategic issues. I actually think doing kind of a
Maybe not.
360 kind of assessment of what's going
I
on
need a
could have
treadmill
been better.
TTT.
Really,
Look at being so low
breaking
on
down
it.
the problem and
There you
coming
go.
up with a new strategy
Order
might
filled.
actually
And I'm
serve the
out.
company better long term.
Order
But of course,
submitted.
it does feel
They should
good
have followed us.
to remove the CEO when you're in a situation like this.
Who do you think benefits here from the two-way race that Lilly appears to be running away with? Are there third parties that might come in?
Well, I think some of the smaller
Order
names,
submitted.
I know Structure Therapeutics, for example, is up significantly today, on the thought that Novo might have to do an acquisition to become competitive in the oral small molecule space. They did do an early stage deal earlier this week, but people want something larger, more impactful. Of course, Amgen has data at the ADA meeting next month. They have their long-acting drug Maritide. That could also be interesting. I guess Structure's down at the moment, but could be an interesting candidate for M&A.
So you downgraded it lately. You're at 64, I think, market performance on the stock.
Kudos.
And I know that the CEO